Council meeting. It's Tuesday, September 5th, 2017. It is 6:30 p.m. Please join me in the pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Holland?
Here.
Vice Mayor Nobile?
Here.
Councilmember Cuff?
Here.
Councilmember Clufus?
Present.
Councilmember Shipley?
Here.
Mayor, all members are present.
Thank you. Jim, before we start, I see a lot of people in the back. How long will it take to open up that room?
Well, I think some of these people are here for the proclamations.
Okay.
And that will go fairly quickly, and then I think there'll be
I
plenty of
just want to make
places.
sure we're
Yeah,
not
I
keeping
think-
people standing.
I think we'll be good if we,
Okay.
after the proclamation.
Thank you. Especially, we have a lot of staff members too, so. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the City Council, August 15th, 2017, City Council business. Motion to approve? August 29th, 2017, City Council workshop meeting canceled.
And now, motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. We'll now begin our proclamations and presentations. Agenda item number 2, which is proclamation recognizing September 2017 as Paint the Town Purple and to end Alzheimer's Month. I believe Councilmember Cuff is going to be reading this. And we'd ask everyone that's accepting the proclamation to please come forward to the podium.
Whereas Alzheimer's is an incurable and fatal brain disease that causes memory loss, disorientation, decreased judgment, and difficulty speaking. And whereas more than 5.4 million Americans are now living with Alzheimer's disease, 520,000 in Florida alone, and 1.1 million care partners who provide unpaid care at home, valued at upwards of $15.85 billion. And whereas with early detection and diagnosis, individuals and families can gain access to treatment, medications, enroll in critical research trials, fully participate in planning for the future, and receive help and support of the Alzheimer's Association of North and Central Florida, along with 4 other locations around the state. And whereas the Alzheimer's Association paints the town purple and holds a walk to end Alzheimer's each September to increase awareness and raise money to help the Alzheimer's Association advance care, support, and research. And whereas the Flagler County Walk to End Alzheimer's will be held this year on the morning of Saturday, September 23rd, giving individuals, businesses, and organizations the opportunity to support individuals with Alzheimer's disease and their families. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that the month of September 2017 be officially designated Paint the Town Purple to End Alzheimer's Month, and that all citizens, businesses, and organizations are encouraged to display and wear purple and to participate in this year's Walk to End Alzheimer's. Signed this 5th day of September 2017, City of Palm Coast, Mayor Melissa Holland.
Council members, Mayor, Jim, Mr. Landon, I want to thank Virginia for starting us off by wearing a purple jacket tonight, and also for the City of Palm Coast Fire Department, who's going to start wearing tomorrow purple shirts to paint the town purple with us. Just want to throw this out to you, and there's shirts up there for everybody as well. Just every 66 seconds, one person is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. There are many of those out there that don't even know they have it, yet sometimes it's not even diagnosed until it's either late or too late for those that are out there with it. Just in Edward Jones alone, when we looked at it from my company, of the top 10 diseases that are out there in the United States, Alzheimer's receives less than $500,000 a year in federal funding for research or care. So we appreciate this proclamation, and we challenge everybody here to come visit us and participate with us, paint the town purple, and help end this disease. Thank you, Council.
Take it out of the way and put it down below.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Back down again?
Thank you again. Such an important contribution you're making to our community. We'll now hear agenda item number 3, which is a proclamation recognizing September 5th, 2017 as Flagler County Sheriff's Deputy Richard Petkosek Day. Councilmember Cuff will be presenting. I'll ask everyone receiving this proclamation to please come forward to the podium.
Whereas Crime Stoppers of Northeast Florida is a volunteer civilian organization dedicated to taking criminals off the street in Flagler, Volusia, Putnam, and St. Johns County, thus making our community a safer place for all law-abiding citizens. And whereas Crime Stoppers of Northeast Florida holds an annual community banquet to recognize and honor local outstanding law enforcement officers and to thank the organization's businesses and individuals who support Crime Stoppers' efforts. And whereas this year there were 23 nominees for law enforcement agencies in the 4 counties, and Flagler County Sheriff's Deputy Richard Petkosek was selected as Law Enforcement Officer of the Year for Flagler County. And whereas on January 2nd, 2016, Deputy Petkosek was the first on the scene of a traffic accident in which a vehicle ended up in the middle of a large retention pond. And whereas Deputy Petkosek assisted fire rescue in bringing the victim to shore and immediately began CPR, working with other first responders, and ultimately the victim began breathing on his own. And whereas Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley nominated Deputy Petkosek for the Crime Stoppers Award for his exemplary service that well represents the outstanding men and women of the Flagler County Sheriff's Office who work so hard to keep us safe. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that Tuesday, September the 5th, 2017, be officially designated Flagler County Sheriff's Deputy Richard Petkosek Day in Palm Coast, and that all citizens are encouraged to thank our law enforcement officers for their dedication and service. Signed this 5th day of September 2017, City of Palm Coast, Mayor Melissa Holland.
So Mayor and Council, we're very proud of Deputy Petkosek and his beautiful family here. He's one of your deputies that's assigned to Palm Coast day in and day out, and we have a lot of very hard-working deputies. but Deputy Pekosik just always goes above and beyond. And I just want to note there, Richard, that in my 40-some-odd years of law enforcement, I've never had a day named after me, and you've had 2 now. So congratulations, and keep up the good work. We're proud of you.
Honorable Mayor Holland, Honorable Vice Mayor Nobile, Honorable City Council Representatives, Honorable Sheriff Staley, Honorable Commissioner Donald Bryan. My name is Ed Fuller. I'm President of Northeast Crime Stoppers. It is my distinct privilege and honor to honor our Flagler Deputy Sheriff, Officer of the Year, recipient Richard Pekosik. I want to thank City Council for recognizing Deputy Pekosik for his outstanding life-saving actions he demonstrated in saving a citizen without hesitation. Deputy Pekosik represents the motto Sheriff Staley embraced for the agency: an honor to serve, a duty to protect. The men and women who serve the Flagler County Sheriff's Department embody professionalism and community while serving us. Deputy, please accept this accolade on behalf of a grateful community. May God protect you, your lovely wife Yuritsa, your beautiful children, John, Adelina, Michael, and all of your fellow officers, and may God keep you safely in his arms. Thank you very much.
Squeeze together just a little bit. All right, looks like Commander Weber first.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Nope. You got it? All right, now look at me. We're going to do a few. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Thank you again for all your service. Thank you. We'll now hear a proclamation agenda item number 4, proclamation recognizing September 9, 2017 through September 24, 2017 as Palm Coast and the Flagler Beaches Senior Games Week. We have Vice Mayor Nobile that will be presenting.
Don't run, just take it easy. I don't want you to get excited or anything. How you doing? Mayor, City Council, whereas the City of Palm Coast Parks and Recreation Department this month will host the 4th annual Palm Coast and Flagler Beach Senior Games, a series of Olympic-style competitive sports and games for men and women ages 50 and over. And whereas the Palm Coast and the Flagler Beaches Senior Games will be held from September 9th to the 24th, 2017, and will continue to be held on an annual basis. And whereas the Palm Coast and the Flagler Beaches Senior Games are sanctioned by the Florida Sports Foundation and serve as a qualifier for the Florida Senior Games State Championships, and whereas Palm Coast and the Flagler Beaches will be welcoming seniors from across Flagler County, Florida, and the United States, and whereas the Palm Coast and Flagler Beaches Senior Games promotes friendly competition, fellowship, health and wellness, an active lifestyle, and volunteerism, and whereas the City of Palm Coast recognizes the value of this program and commends the staff members, senior citizens, and volunteers who have given so generously of their time and effort in this worthy cause, and whereas the City of Palm Coast extends best wishes to all the competitors who will strive to achieve their personal goals during the 4th annual Palm Coast and the Flagler Beaches Senior Games. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Palm Coast Mayor and the City Council, declare the weeks of September 9th through the 24th, 2017, as Palm Coast and the Flagler Beaches Senior Games Weeks. Signed this 5th day of September 2017, Mayor Melissa Holland.
Thank you. On behalf of the Parks and Recreation Department, we really want to just thank our athletes for participating. But also on top of that, we would like to thank our sponsors, Lancaster Archery, The Observer, and Cora for participating with us. But also we have an amazing team here. Some of the individuals today that are here in this room, but also some of the people that are in the background that are really trying to create a really unique experience for everyone. So thank you. And also, as part of a celebration, we do have some cake afterwards that will be happening in the waterfront room for people. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have any? Everybody, come on.
Believe it or not. Chief, you're playing golf, right?
The part I was surprised about.
Laura, very nice. Any other sponsors here? Okay. Big group, we need a lot of people to be athletic. All right, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do a couple more. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. And the games begin.
I gotta carry my phone to get my steps in.
Okay. We'll now hear agenda item number 5, which is a proclamation recognizing September 13th, 2017 as Flagler STEMI Team Day. Councilmember Shipley will be presenting. I'd ask everyone to please come up and that's going to be receiving the proclamation.
Just you.
I guess I'm it.
Whereas heart disease remains the leading cause of death in men and women, and whereas STEMI is an acronym for ST segment elevation myocardial infarction and represents EKG findings suggestive of the heart attack in progress. And whereas early detection and management of patients experiencing STEMIs in the pre-hospital setting facilitates emergent clinical intervention in the hospital, thereby reducing morbidity and mortality. And whereas the collaboration among the City of Palm Coast EMS, Flagler County EMS, and Florida Hospital Flagler in early detection of individuals suffering from STEMI and the pre-hospital setting has resulted clinical intervention times surpassing American Heart Association goals and reduction of morbidity and mortality for the residents and guests of the City of Palm Coast. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that Wednesday, September 13th, 2017, be officially designated Flagler STEMI Team Day in recognition of this effective collaboration. Signed this 5th day of September 2017, City of Palm Coast, Melissa Holland, Mayor. Do you want to say something?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I never let the microphone go without saying something. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. On behalf of the team, and it is a team effort, for those that are listening and in the audience, our crews, not only on the fire trucks and the ambulance, call a STEMI alert when they see the ST wave in the heart, and I'm not going to get into all that. They notify the hospital immediately, so the hospital knows that they're coming in with somebody that's having a heart attack. As is said, we are above the American Heart Association SAVE rate, and this is a wonderful program. I thank you for recognizing it, as well as the team members that are going to benefit from this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I know, but sometimes, sorry.
Agenda item number 6, which is a proclamation recognizing September 17, 2017 through September 23, 2017 as Constitution Week. Councilmember Clufus will be presenting.
Absolutely.
Anyone in the audience is here to accept, please come up.
No worries. Mayor, Council, whereas the Constitution of the United States of America is the guardian of our liberties and embodies the principles of our limited government and a republic dedicated to rule by law, not by people. Whereas September 17, 2017 marks the 230th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations for which we will commemorate this grand occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through 23rd, 2017 as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Palm Coast does hereby proclaim September 17th through 23rd, 2017 as Constitution Week in the City of Palm Coast, and we urge all citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of our Constitution by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us by this guardian of our liberties. Signed this 5th day of September 2017, City of Palm Coast, Florida, Mayor Melissa Holland. Would you like to say a few words?
No, I just want to say thank you from the Old Highway Kings chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution for making the proclamation.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you very much. We'll now move to agenda item number 7, which is a proclamation recognizing October 2017 as Raise the Pink Flag with the Pink 5K Month. Councilmember Shipley will be presenting the proclamation. Everyone that's going to be accepting, please come up to the podium.
Okay. Everyone got their name. Whereas breast cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer in women, with 252,710 new cases expected in women this year, ranking it second among all cancer deaths and accounting for nearly 1 in 8 cancers diagnosed in U.S. women. And whereas about 2,470 new cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed in men this year. And whereas only 1 in 8 women diagnosed with breast cancer have a family history, and 85% have no family history, with an increase in incidence rates since 1990 being predominantly in women 50 years or older. And whereas early detection with timely screening mammograms has helped to boost the breast cancer survivor rate to more than 2.6 million in the United States, also resulting in a 33% decline in mortality since 2000, with women under 50 seeing an ever larger decrease due to early screening and detection. And whereas Florida Hospital's Pink 5K with the support of the City of Palm Coast and our community, has distributed over $120,000, helping 212 patients and performed 611 procedures in direct support to Flagler County men and women dealing with breast cancer. And whereas the City of Palm Coast is joining the many activities of Florida Hospital's Flagler Pink 5K to fight breast cancer by kicking off this year's Pink 5K efforts at the Food Truck Tuesday on September 19th, and by holding the Pink 5K Run Walk on October 15th. Events that will directly benefit the community, with proceeds going to expand education and provide mammograms for many more qualified women. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the Palm Coast Mayor and City Council hereby proclaim October 2017 as Raise the Pink Flag with the Pink 5K Month in support of breast cancer awareness, and encourage all women to pursue early breast cancer screenings and other possible diagnostic services to avoid becoming one of this nation's mortalities. Signed this 5th day of September 2017, City of Palm Coast, Melissa Holland, Mayor.
Thank you, Heidi, and very well said. Thank you all. Thank you, City of Palm Coast, for your partnership. This is the 8th year we partnered with not only the Pink 5K, but September, October, and Flagler County Going Pink. So we have raised a lot of money. We have definitely saved some lives in Flagler County, and we're really just beginning. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you out there on Food Truck Tuesday on the 19th. Can we come get a picture?
Come on over.
Come on in here.
All right, Lauren, a little that way. Perfect. Okay, now that you all wanted to come up, you're going to have to really squeeze together like you like each other. Okay, we got it. Ready?
How's my pink shirt, Cindy?
It looks fabulous. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Keep smiling. I hear lots of cameras. 1, 2, 3, and one more. 1, 2, 3. Now look at Denise. 1, 2, 3. One more, please. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Super.
Thank you, sir. Another topic.
Motion to adjourn. You ready?
Now that we got our work out, we'll now move to agenda item under ordinances, resolutions, and public hearings. Agenda item number 8 is a second reading. Mr. Reichman.
Yes, Madam Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, extending portions of the temporary moratorium within the jurisdictional limits of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, relating to medical marijuana treatment center facilities dispensing medical marijuana. Readopting findings of fact, prohibiting medical marijuana treatment centers dispensing facilities during the extended moratorium period, directing staff to develop proposed land development code provisions and other recommendations regarding such dispensing facilities. This ordinance provides for penalties, severability conflicts, and an effective date.
Mayor, City Council, as you know, you've directed planning staff to work with our legal team to amend our land development code to specify exactly where the dispensaries can be located here in Palm Coast in commercial areas. So as typical, when we're in the middle of legislative review, the moratorium prohibits someone from coming in just under the new local ordinance. The ordinance will have to meet state law that's very specific as to what you can and can't do, and we'll have plans to bring that to you in October. So this is a second reading. There's been no changes, and it's really kind of a formality at this point. We're recommending approval.
Any questions, council members? Seeing none, I'll open it up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make comment on agenda item number 8, please do so at this time. And I'll close public comment. I'll take it back to this council, entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Under first reading, agenda item number 9, Mr. Reichman.
Yes, Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the City of Palm Coast 2035 Comprehensive Plan as previously amended. This is pursuant to Section 163 Florida Statutes. That's Chapter 163 Florida Statutes, amending the future land use map or FLUME designation for 145 acres more or less of certain real property from industrial, greenbelt, and conservation to industrial, residential, and conservation as described in more detail in legal description, which is an exhibit to this ordinance. This ordinance includes a note on the future land use map to limit development on the subject parcel to 348 dwelling units and 350,000 square feet of non-residential development, providing for conflicts, ratification of prior acts, codification, severability, and effective date.
Mayor, City Council, this should look very familiar because a few months ago, this amendment to our comp plan and then also the next item, which is associated rezoning, you had a public hearing on this item. You had many comments from the neighborhood to the north. This is located on US 1 and Belterre. At that time, you tabled this item and instructed staff to work with the property owner to amend their proposal, which originally was just commercial and multifamily. Their interest is in apartments and commercial. You asked them to go back and redo their plan to include single-family residential that would back up to the existing single-family residential neighborhood and to reduce the number of multifamily dwelling units. So they have done that. They have a new plan that includes single-family behind the single-family and then the multifamily behind the commercial along US 1. So they are, at this point, ready to present their new plan to you. And Jose will start off with the staff report. Once again, pretty much the same as before, but with the new plan. So Jose, if you'll take it from here.
One procedural note, if I may, Mayor, Council. Since the presentation is being made as a joint presentation, as I understand it, for the comp plan amendment and the rezoning, while the comprehensive plan amendment is a legislative action, the rezoning is quasi-judicial. So I think it would be best if at this point, since the matter was first heard and tabled, if you have received any additional, since that time, ex parte communications, those should be disclosed at this time. So not going back forever, but just till the time that we had the last public hearing on this matter.
Anyone?
I have not.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Jose Papa for the Community Development Department. As Mr. Landon mentioned, we have a companion applications here before us for a parcel of property of about 145 acres located on US 1, located along US 1 south of Belterre Boulevard. The companion applications are for a comprehensive plan amendment and a zoning map amendment. The property currently sits vacant. And again, although the conceptual master plan that will be presented to you tonight has been changed, staff's review of that change to the conceptual master plan showed that there was no need to change the required amendment to the comprehensive plan. So that remains the same. As previously presented, we have a 145-acre parcel where you have the shaded pink areas on the left here. These are industrially designated areas, and the dark green area is the greenbelt designation for the parcel, and the light green is a conservation designation. The application is to basically consolidate your available industrial lands along US 1, change the available greenbelt areas to residential, and at the same time maintaining a 13-acre conservation area along the middle of that 145 acres. The reason that shape has changed is that due to some ground truthing and additional environmental studies, the map on the right on the screen, or the proposed map, better represents really the more environmentally sensitive areas on the parcel. To sum up what those changes will, thank you, what we'll do, essentially that from the current to the proposed, what happens is that you will have 9 additional acres of industrial. You'll go from 90 acres of greenbelt to 81 acres of residential flume designation, and again, maintaining 13 acres of conservation lands. This amendment does propose to include footnotes on the future land use map, which will limit the residential units to 348 and the non-residential square footage to 350,000 square feet. One thing we do for any comprehensive plan amendment is we conduct a public facilities impact analysis, and that analysis, again, is done based on the maximum development potential under the current or existing flume designations and the proposed flume designations. So the current designation on the property, greenbelt and industrial. In greenbelt, you can have a maximum floor area ratio of 0.30 with public, semi-public uses, and that would include hospitals, schools, houses of worship. And so based on that analysis, the maximum square footage you can get in greenbelt is about 1.1 million. The same thing with industrial, you have a maximum floor area ratio of 0.5. Commercial, in this case, maybe a shopping center. And based on that analysis, you can have almost 945,000 square feet. So based on the proposed designation, and again, although we're changing it to residential, industrial, and conservation, there is that footnote that will be added on the map that would limit the new, with a footnote that will limit development to 348 dwelling units, and in this case, 350,000 square feet of non-residential. Again, basically a summary, you go from a non-residential potential of 2.1 million square feet to a proposed non-residential potential of 350,000 square feet. And your change mainly is in the residential, where previously you might have been limited to 90 units. Under the proposed future land use map amendment, there would be a cap of 348 dwelling units. And again, maintaining 13 acres of conservation. The net result of that, of the analysis, including the limiting policy, is that basically you would see a decrease in trips, and mainly due to the limit in the square footage that would be permitted on the site after the comprehensive plan amendment. Where you would see mainly is an increase in the demand on parks and school capacity, which typically would come when you increase the development potential for residential. And again, these facility needs will be more analyzed in depth during a site plan or plat review. Here at the comprehensive plan amendment level, we're looking at things at about, if you were looking at from above the ground, at about the 35,000 foot level. As you get to the zoning, and then eventually, if it's approved to a site plan or plat review, then you're looking at it closer to the ground and closer to what's actually being proposed on that site. And so you can look at the facilities more closely at that time and determine what the real capacity needs might be. As part of any comprehensive plan amendment, we review the proposal for any environmental factors. What's the analysis has shown that is that the area is not within a special flood hazard area. The proposed amendment will continue to preserve 13 acres of conservation area. The site, as currently, has been fragmented from a larger corridor by US 1 and the existing residential land uses to the north and to the east. The area is not within an aquifer recharge area, and there are no impacts on archaeological and historical resources. Looking at the consistency of the proposed amendment to the surrounding land uses, as you can see, the proposed industrial land uses consistent with the industrial land uses to the west in unincorporated Flagler County, and you have the residential areas for the remainder of the parcel, consistent really with the designation to the north and to the east. Looking for its consistency with comprehensive plan policies, the proposed development is consistent. There is available infrastructure to serve the development. The location of commercial non-residential development along a major arterial is appropriate. It promotes land use patterns that do not increase the cost of providing utilities. Again, the availability of water and sewer to connect, and improving the balance of land uses. You have an amendment that proposes to maintain some of the non-residential uses balanced with the residential uses. That would provide for potential services to serve the residential development in the area. So again, the findings, no significant impact on level of service or public infrastructure, no significant impact on environmental factors. The amendment is consistent with surrounding land uses and with the comprehensive plan. So for the comprehensive plan amendment, which was reviewed by staff and the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board, we recommend that the City Council transmit or essentially approve the comprehensive plan amendment at first reading and eventually move that to the state for additional review. And so the next steps for this application, we're here at first reading. If approved tonight, it will be transmitted to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, who is the state land planning agency. And after receiving comments from DEO and other state agencies, we can then schedule a second public hearing for final approval. As stated previously, in addition to the comprehensive plan amendment, there is a companion zoning map amendment. So currently, what you see on the map on the left is that you have 3 different zoning categories on the same parcel. You have high-intensity commercial, represented by a dark red. You have light industrial, represented by the pink color there. And Estate 1, which is consumes about 102 acres of the subject property. The proposed zoning map amendment is to consider the entire parcel as part of a master plan development. And as with any master plan development, along with that comes the development agreement, which is the text or the written portion of the change that will identify what the development entitlements are, the development standards are, and any conditions that might have to be applied to any development on that parcel. And so, as previously stated, the applicant has amended their master plan development as recommended by City Council at the last public hearing. And I'd just like to go over some of the major changes to the master plan. One of the major changes are the types of units that are proposed for the parcel. Again, previously, it was the proposal was for 348 multifamily residential units. Under the amended master plan, you now have 134 single-family dwelling units to wrap or envelope the existing single-family uses to the north and to the east. You still have the non-residential development concentrated along US 1. And what's been proposed is that the multifamily residential units have now been tucked behind this non-residential area. So just to summarize that, whereas the previous submittal recommended or proposed 348 multifamily units, you now have an amended submittal of a mix of 134 single-family and 214 multifamily units. Again, previously, the mix would have been that the multifamily units would have been in 24 and 36-foot multifamily buildings. Now it's you have 134 single-family lots, and the multifamily buildings will be concentrated into a 38-foot high multifamily building. You've got a 140-foot buffer with a 6-foot fence with a landscape hedge previously. Now you have a 25-foot landscape buffer, but in addition to that, you have the single-family lots adjacent to the existing single-family lots. Previously, your multifamily buildings were scattered throughout the site. Now it's been clustered behind the commercial, and there's been no change to the proposed general commercial use for the property. No change to that. The only access previous to consistent with the previous submittal would only come from US 1, and again, providing an internal bike ped system to connect the residential with the non-residential uses. Looking at the consistency of the proposed or the amended master plan, what we see here is that certainly the single-family units that are proposed for the boundaries along the north and the east, very consistent with the existing single-family to the north, the east, and the duplex zoning on the east side. And again, the proposed general commercial uses along US 1 serves as a nice buffer between the existing industrial zoning to the west of US 1. So again, general commercial uses providing a buffer to the proposed residential uses. Thanks. As part of our analysis with any zoning map amendment, we review it for consistency with a comprehensive plan and for existing criteria in the land development code. The findings are that the proposed rezoning provides for a compact and contiguous development for efficient provision and maintenance of infrastructure. Again, that's because that subject property is proximate to available infrastructure. It is consistent with comprehensive plan objectives and policies that to expand the supply of land so that there's additional flexibility in the type of residential units in the city beyond the single family use. So this zoning change allows that opportunity to provide a variety of housing products. The change does not cause significant financial liability or hardship on the city. Again, the site is proximate to existing public facilities, water and wastewater lines, and an extension would be provided by the developer. Its impact upon the environment and the natural resources, that was reviewed at the comprehensive plan level, also here at the rezoning level. But in addition to that, at the time that they come, if approved, at the time that they come in for rezoning, I'm sorry, at the time that they come in for a site plan or plat review, there will be additional analysis that will need to be conducted to make sure that the proposed development will meet the standards we've established in the land development code. Looking at the criteria for any threat to general health, safety, and welfare of the community, does it comply with other local, state, and federal regulations? Is it compatible with the surrounding land uses? We find the amendment to be consistent with those criteria. And again, at the site plan and plat review level, there will be further development review of the proposal. And does it accomplish a legitimate public purpose? The proposal will provide for additional commercial areas along a major arterial, which is very appropriate, and provides the opportunity to diversify the housing stock in the city. And finally, looking at one criteria within or looking at a policy within our comprehensive plan, and this is the criteria for siting multifamily zoned areas. There are different bullet points highlighted under that policy, and I just want to point that out as part of our review that, one, the proposed site for this multifamily area is that it is located along a major arterial, US 1. It does contain at least 15 acres of contiguous uplands, as stated in the policy. There is the availability of central water and wastewater facilities in proximity of the site. The property itself provides adequate land area to provide either a wide landscaped or natural buffer from the proximate single residential uses. And the last bullet there is that, as with any development within the city, they will be required to meet the architectural design guidelines provided in the Land Development Code. So staff's recommendation is that the City Council approve the proposed zoning map amendment from Suburban Estate 1, Light Industrial District, high-intensity commercial to master plan development, along with the revised conceptual master plan and development agreement. So again, if this application is approved tonight, it will need to come back for a second reading along with a companion Flume amendment. And again, if approved, and beyond that, if approved, there'll still be the need to either do subdivision master plan, preliminary plat, and final plat and site plan. And that concludes staff presentation.
Any questions at this time, Council?
Yes, Mayor.
Mayor, I'm sorry, Mayor, the applicant is here with a presentation.
I'll wait.
Ask the applicant to come forward, please.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with me. It's an honor to be back here again. I last was here about 6 months ago discussing the same project.
Can you state your name for the record?
I apologize. My name is David Blessing with a company called Palm Coast 145 LLC. Apologize. Again, thank you for having me here. Thank you for speaking with me. I think last time I was here, Council came up with some intuitive comments, which we took to heart and we studied, and we wanted to make sure that we addressed all of those. So that's kind of what my presentation will be tonight, is to focus on the comments that were made in my previous meeting and hopefully address and answer some of those concerns. Again, I don't want to rehash some of the history, but let me just tell you who we are. Palm Coast 145 is a group of 4 financial investors who have known each other for a long time and worked together for 9 to 10 years. We all have strong backgrounds in the financial, well, and I have in the financial, but in the development and construction end. And we've done quite a few projects which we would like to highlight. The first one of which is, most of these are in South Florida except for the last one. It's the St. Regis Bow Harbor. It's a $500 million mixed-use project. It had 282 condos, a hotel, and a spa. The second one is called Fahina House. The other one's Fahina Hotel. That's also in Miami, 68 units, $126 million project. And the other one's a $145 million project. And the last one is in addition to the Country Music Hall of Fame. My partner, who was supposed to be here tonight but couldn't because his son was ill and had to miss his flight, he did the Country Music Hall of Fame edition and also built the Omni there in Nashville, Tennessee. This is an overview of the site where we are. Down at the very bottom corner, southwest, is our property. And as you can see, that development is working its way in that area. And I think this is really a fantastic time to acknowledge that and start that growth in that corridor with this project. Some of the history of where we've been, multiple meetings, multiple discussions with neighbors, with planning board, with one with city council, and most recently we had a neighborhood meeting just a few days back to discuss the plan that we're presenting with you tonight. So as I mentioned to you, I wanted to try to focus on your comments and concerns as I heard them in our last meeting. I was able to download the video and watch it several times to make sure that I heard and listened and took notes and addressed that and try to number them and identify them in a clear and concise manner, the first of which we want to hit is the comprehensive plan. And I think Jose and staff has done a fantastic job of identifying what we did and how it would meet the criteria and the plans of objectives of the comprehensive plan, which you guys know. I don't have to explain to you the particulars of that. But from my own knowledge, I was able to pull certain pieces out of it and wanted to maybe just highlight a little bit that in the comprehensive plan states that there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 49,000 plus lots out there, quarter-acre lots. And there are really few choices for existing and future residents regarding diversity. And as part of this comprehensive plan, it does call for an expansion into a variety of different housing units in Palm Coast. And again, I just wanted to highlight a couple of chapters that reference that. It's chapter 1 and chapter 3. I don't think I want to go into that, but you guys are familiar with this, and basically it's calling out for, a good stock, diversity of housing stock, and this project was kind of focused on that. I think it hits all the needs, and I call it live, work, and play, where this one facility, and you'll see a little bit later how you can actually live there, you could actually work at one of the facilities, you could shop at Publix, you could ride your bike to a restaurant, a doctor's office, all that within one contained area. That was kind of my goal in setting this thing up. And I think through conversation with council and members of the neighborhood, I'm excited that this plan is where it's at, and I think it will be successful for the city of Palm Coast. Don't want to go into the detail again. There's a lot of words on there. I wanted to really highlight the policies that kind of call out the same things I've already discussed, but I think Jose has done a fantastic job of calling that out, and where it is beneficial to the city to diversify and have mixed use of the product. Some of the other, so that was the first concern. The second concern was Section 8 housing. We heard the word Section 8 housing thrown out there, and I emphatically said when I stood up here, and I'll stand up here now, we will not have Section 8 housing in this property. It won't happen. We will do everything in our power to avoid it. We've offered to put it into the MPD agreement. I don't believe that that's allowed, though, unfortunately, but we would like to put it in there, but it's not allowed by any community, not just ours. But we did also put some things into the MPD agreement that kind of helps facilitate crime prevention through environmental design, discounts for local firefighters in the event there are rental apartments, and then on-site property management, which is 6 days a week. So some of these things we've thought in advance based on comments from the community to make sure that it is a consistent community with the quality level that we feel it needs to be. I've mentioned up there, too, that we will put it in the covenants and restrictions, and I know I've had comments that can be changed, but we will put it in there that we will not have government-assisted housing in this facility. The other comment that was made was, what's the size? What is the size of units in the multifamily area that you're considering doing? And the question was actually, what does the Land Development Code call for? Well, the Land Development Code calls for 650 minimum square feet. Our MPD agreement will say 750 square feet, so a little bit larger. And of course, we're talking in anomalies here, and at the time we start with a project, we have an idea, and as we move further along, we try to refine that idea, and I know it would help you guys to kind of see and understand what my vision is. So we went out and hired an architect and came up with some plans that we believe would represent the quality and construction of materials. This is a previous photo of the commercial aspect of it in the frontage. This is the multifamily typical elevation levels, which shows good earth tone colors, quality materials, stone on the outside, stucco, clay roof and or shingle roof, balconies that take full advantage of the open space that will be available on the site. Here is another architectural rendering of one of our buildings, which is a 26-unit building. It's difficult to see because it's black and white, but there is a lot of architectural interest, as you'll see in the next photo. Right here, this is one elevation that we developed that could potentially go on the site as a multifamily building. And again, when I say multifamily building, I'm talking full multifamily. Could be condos, could be apartments, or it could be townhomes. But this is the multifamily aspect of it. Market will dictate what it will be. Here's another elevation. I really like this elevation. It's got some nice coloring to it. It's got some trellises up on the top level, good balconies. A lot of nice use of the architecture there. This is the 21-unit building, layout of the 21-unit building. So we have two unit types. We had a 21 and a 26. This is the 21 unit, and this is the 26 unit. And we had some discussion similarly about the floor plan layout. How will the floor plan layout? We heard some examples that we came up with to kind of go back and forth, but it is well thought out. It does have a nice flow to it. It does provide segregation to bathrooms and restrooms and living areas and kitchens, washer dryers. So there's no central, located laundry units. In-unit washer dryers is what we intend. Our next concern is, I'll turn it over to Mike so he can take it over, but we wanted to kind of address what council defined as consistent usage.
Thank you. Mike Beebe. I'm a consultant as part of the project team, and I was before you in March. And I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about some additional concerns and comments that we had in our March meeting. So probably one of the most significant comments was the compatibility of our proposed project at that time with the surrounding neighbors to the north and east. And there was some concern about the single-family residential abutting our project, which was all multifamily from a residential standpoint, and then, of course, the commercial along US 1. So over the last 6 months, we've worked very hard to try to come up with an alternative plan that begins to address that compatibility issue, how we transition from our neighbors to our project, and trying to come up with a solution that works for both, not only us, but for the city and for our neighbors. Jose did a good job of explaining the master plan earlier. I'm just going to talk briefly about that. He covered most of the key points. If you recall, our previous version was 348 multifamily units. They were scattered about the property. And so this proposed plan is a combination of residential now. We have the single family, the 60-foot wide lots, minimum square footage of 7,200 square feet along that northern and eastern property line. We have the commercial that really hasn't changed from our previous plan along that main US 1 corridor. And then we have reduced, obviously, the number of multifamily buildings and units, and we've centralized them behind the commercial area, as Jose pointed out, but also fronting against the conservation area. So we've tried to buffer those as best we could. We think we've done a good job of that. Just from a context standpoint, we've reduced our multifamily units by about 38%. So we've dropped those down from 348 to 214. We've made up the difference in single-family lots, as I mentioned earlier. We still have our 13-acre conservation area. We still have our 350,000 square feet of commercial, office, retail. And we have relocated our amenity area, so it is now more isolated. It's adjacent to the multifamily, the proposed multifamily. It abuts the conservation area, and it no longer impacts the surrounding neighbors to the north or east as our previous plan had it located. Another question that was asked at the last meeting was about the availability of apartments in the area, because at the time we talked about multifamily units possibly being apartments. And so we had done some research previously that we had used to kind of help us drive the mix that we were trying to achieve. You can see the information here. We took the current zip code of the 32164 of that area. You can see there's about 18,000 housing units in that zip code. The bulk of them, as you already probably know, are one-unit detached single-family houses. 88% of them, 16,000. There's a small percentage of multifamily housing, a little over 4%, under 800 actual units. Interestingly, there's actually a significant amount of rental housing in this zip code, 23%. 1 out of every 4 units are rentals, which obviously demonstrates it's not just all multifamily that are rentals. There's a significant amount of single-family rentals also. Another question that was asked is what could be located under the current existing zoning. And Jose talked a little bit about the existing zoning on this property was Industrial 1 and Commercial 3. And so at the time, I don't think we really had a real good answer for the council on what could be located there. So we've listed some of the things that you can see it. You can see some of the things under the industrial, light manufacturing and indoor shooting ranges, truck stops. Also, COM3, you can see mini warehouse storage and some other uses. These obviously aren't the only uses. These are some of the more common uses. With that kind of ties into, as Jose showed you, some of the existing uses across the street, across US 1 to the west of US 1 in unincorporated Flagler County. We showed this a little bit the last time. I think what we want to try to demonstrate is there's a significant amount. This is kind of right across from our property, about 3 to 4 mile range north and south. There's some uses there that fall under that industrial zoning classification. we want to demonstrate this is not what we're trying to accomplish, obviously, with our frontage along US 1. We really look at this as an opportunity for Dave and his group to transform that visual corridor along US 1 with this project. And we think this project would begin to do that with some high-quality commercial, office, and retail, a nice blend of multifamily and single-family, and try to be maybe the first group in there that begins to help improve that US 1 visual corridor. So we're committed to that. His group is committed to invest the necessary funds and resources to pull off a project of this size and scope. I think Dave's gonna finish up the last few comments.
Thank you, Mike. Again, the goal of this exercise and presentation was to address all of your concerns as I saw them when I re-listened to the video of our last meeting, and I wanted to make sure that I did that. So these are some of the smaller ones. The question it asked was, would we timber the land? The answer is no, we wouldn't. Rental property rates, what would they be? Well, I don't know if, indeed, if they were rental properties, it would be market rate at the time we opened them, we built them. Out parcels, there are some out parcels scattered along the piece of property. Would we attempt to acquire them? Yes, we would attempt to acquire them if they made sense. If someone wants $2 million for a small little piece, I'm not going to get it. But we will provide them access that's called for under the code. Drainage easements and water flow, we will not change anything. We will comply with any regulations to ensure drainage and water flows as intended. And then finally, US 1 and safety issues. While we did a slight traffic study, not nearly as in-depth one that would be, and there will be one in the future that would call for probably certain traffic situations that we would address and comply with, be that a traffic light, turn lane, whatever it's called for. So I just want to make sure I answered all those questions. And finally, we want to try to at least let you know what our economic investment would be to the community. We've talked about it, we went through it, we went different scenarios, and right now the plan in front of you has an investment of somewhere between $100 and $120 million. And we anticipate that over a 3 to 7 year period, depending upon the market and certain conditions and so forth. As far as job creations, there is a bell curve associated with any construction progress. You start off small, you get heavy, then you go back down again. So at our peak, we're anticipating somewhere around the neighborhood of 500 people that would be employed building this project. And then upon full operation with the commercial piece, typically that's where most of the employment is going to occur. We're estimating around 600 people that would be employed to manage this facility. And as far as tax revenue, full loan value, I'm going to estimate right now today would be somewhere around $73 million with $115, $120 million investment. The tax revenue would be about $1.5 million to the city. So with that, we tried to hit on all of the comments and concerns, questions. We may have missed some. If you have some currently, we'd like to be able to answer those after comments are made. But I'll be honest with you, it's a humbling process standing up here in front of you, going back and forth and getting critique on some things we thought was fantastic, but we took it to heart. I think we went back and we came back with something that we're equally excited about, and hopefully it will be equally excited about too with the City Commission, and be, again, a nice, I think, kickoff change to that US 1 corridor. Really is calling for some development down there, and we'd like to start off. We're willing to take the risk to do that. Thank you very much.
Councilmember, any questions at this time?
I have a question for Mr. Blessing.
Yes.
Is that right? So let's say everything goes by, we pass this. What's being built? What is this 600 people employed? What are they building? What's the first thing they're building?
So there was 500 people during construction. Okay?
Yeah, so what are they building?
Oh, they're building a Walmart, a Publix, a nail salon, a restaurant, a doctor's office.
So all that's going on?
We're not going to make comments from the audience. We're going to act civilly. That's what our rules dictate. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Show you what my thoughts are.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the single-family homes. Obviously, you're not building them until somebody buys it. But then we have all this commercial land up front. We have a mini mall there, and we've got a couple outlet areas. Is that going to be built right now?
So is your question, I thought I heard your question being, are we going to employ 600 people? Is the question, when are we going to start construction?
Well, what I'm trying to get to is this. Let's say all goes, everything passes. What are you building first?
I haven't gotten that far into what I'm building first.
So you anticipate at this point, within a year, starting construction on the commercial properties?
I would say it's probably like between a year and a half to 2 years before
A
you
year
get all
and a
your
half to 2
final
years.
approvals, site plan, plat, permits, impact fees paid. It's a
What
long
about
and tedious.
the,
Look,
I'm sorry.
I've been doing this a year and a half. I don't even have my site. I'm in the
I
same
know.
place I was a year and a half ago.
That's government, man. You should be used to that. But, and when would the construction of the multifamily units begin? Right away?
Again, it all depends on timing, and
I don't mean a
permits.
date. I'm not looking for a date. I'm looking for a chronological layout.
Fine, I'll start them concurrently. I have no problem starting concurrently. Doing some commercial, doing some multi, and doing some singles. I have no problem doing all concurrently. There's nothing to say I can't do that. They're unique individual products.
Right.
And if there's a market for them, I'll build them.
Okay. That's all I have, Mike.
Okay, so I'm sure it is a humbling experience, but I did see in Mr. Landon's office the model that you had, the new model, what you're showing us here, and it was beautiful. It was really nice. My only concern with it is in each corner, it's still going to be industrial or COM 3, I guess, and there's houses behind that. So those two corners, could those be changed to single family so that it's just a matter of 3 houses or 4 houses on each side. But I'm not sure what kind of business you would put there, and it does back up to people's backyards.
Indeed, that's a very valid point, a very good comment that you've made. I saw that as well, and it sure looks ugly, and I wouldn't want to be in one of those houses, so I've decided I will not build those. I will leave those raw.
Great.
Natural. I won't put houses there, and I won't put commercial there.
So just to confirm then, between now and the second reading, the red corners, which says commercial, will either go green or blue. Green for open space or blue for a pond.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we can make that change as we go along.
Is that all your questions for now?
Yep, that was great.
We'll now open it up to the public.
One more question, ma'am, for
Go
Jose.
ahead. Before we start, one more question.
One more question for Jose. So we got 2 things here. We got the comprehensive plan. Yes, sir. And then we have the zoning. What are we buying from moving from a green belt to a residential? Why are we doing the comprehensive plan change?
That's because the Greenbelt designation has a density limit of 1 unit per acre. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we can move from the green belt to what it is now to residential, and then that'll expand that, and then we can then change the zoning to MPD inside of that.
Yes, sir.
Have an MP, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the allocation for residential land use designation is that you can have up to 12 units per acre. So, but in this case, they've decided to put that additional policy cap that limits it to 348. Yes, sir.
Now, can you do MPD zoning inside of a green belt?
You can.
But you're limited.
You're limited to the 1 unit per acre. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
Before we start with public comment, you'll state your name for the record. Your 3 minutes will begin following that. Again, I ask you to please be respectful of all speakers that are coming up, regardless of what your feelings are for what they're saying. We'll do this slowly. This is a thoughtful process, and I'm just asking for everyone's respect. First speaker, please.
Yes, my name is Tom Trama, and when I came here the very first time, I was under the impression that you were all going to talk about rezoning this piece of property. I don't know if that has ever been resettled or not from the last meeting, and if it's not been settled, when are we going to settle that? And if we're going to talk about the project, I disagree with a lot of stuff in the project, and it is the multi-story rentals. The houses, that's a good idea. The rentals are bad, in my opinion, and that doesn't do anything for my community that I live in now, except lower the standard. That's all I got. Thanks.
Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Tim O'Donnell. I live at 8 Coranda Place. Since the developer talked about the quality of the units they would build, and at the neighborhood meeting, such details as how many days per week the property manager would be on site, I would appreciate the council requesting a more detailed answer about the properties they developed and operated as multifamily residences, not hotels and commercial and all that. There were a couple of comments made by council members in the March meeting that I would like to quote. Council member Shipley said, quote, "When we look at some of the previous decisions we had to make, Pine Lakes, when people didn't want the gas station, we had to say, you bought it, it was commercial, you knew what was there. I think the word is hypocrite if I turn around now and say it will be different this time," end quote. Councilmember Nobile said, quote, "I also do a lot of arguing when people buy near a commercial property and they come and ask to stop it. You bought there, you knew what it was, and we do not have the right to just change it. So I see this also as we should not go the other way. So if somebody bought because they realized it was estates and they were going to have about 100 homes, and now we're going to 348 units that are multi-use apartments, it looks good, sounds good, but I think the people of this town would be hurt by this, and I would not want this in my area," end quote. These statements hit the nail on the head perfectly. When people buy property next to land zoned commercial or multifamily, they should not complain when something commercial or multifamily is built there. This is not a question of not in my backyard, it's a question of fairness and consistency. I have not heard one resident that I've talked to complain about the commercial aspects of this project. We knew what was there when we purchased our homes. We bought single-family lots next to 1 acre single-family lots. The developer bought his land knowing how it was zoned as well. Don't hurt the current citizens of Palm Coast to help out-of-town developers who will never call Palm Coast home. I believe people have the right to build what they want on their property, as long as it does not harm neighbors. This project clearly will have a negative impact on the neighborhood. Increased traffic alone will be a major issue. People already use Caras and Carrot Trails as a cut-through for Belterra to US 1, at least one being clocked by a deputy at 60 miles an hour. Adding 800 residents to that property will magnify this problem. I want to disagree with Mr. Langdon's introductory comments. I reviewed both the written minutes and the audio record. I don't recall the council asking the developer to add single family to the project. At the last meeting, you tabled the agenda item and allow, in Councilmember Clough's terms, quote, "the opportunity for further dialogue with the community," end quote. There has been no dialogue with the community. But there are already several homes up for sale on Caras Trail due to this project. I would ask you to please vote it down tonight. Thank you.
Next speaker. Again, please, I'd ask you to refrain from your clapping, your noises. This is public comment. Your 3 minutes will be available to you. We're not going to clap after every single speaker.
Hi, I'm Virginia Arroyo, and I tend to agree. When we went to purchase our home, we did our research, and I could have bought any home in Palm Coast. We looked around in different areas, and what drew us to that area is because we knew that it was zoned for 1 acre lots. I don't mind neighbors in my yard, but he wants to give a 25-foot. You can walk 25, put a little 25 feet, that's nothing. So, and then I would ask that you don't change the zoning. That's why he talks about his investment. All these people invested already, and we're from Palm Coast. These are big investments. Add all our homes together. That's a big investment. And I think really the truth is you should honor what's already been said. He bought it to know what it was going to be. So he must have something in the back of his head that he could do with that. Otherwise, he's a smart businessman. Who would throw that kind of money away? You know, if he didn't already say, well, if they say no, I'll then do this. So, and everybody already invested. These are their properties. This is all they have. This is, and he's not even from our area. And you guys are from Palm Coast. And if you were shopping for a house and you wanted the woods, or you wanted a neighbor that's an acre away, and that's why you purchased your land, that's why you purchased that house. Otherwise, I could have gone to the Peace section. It's very nice over there, but I knew the neighbors were right behind. And that's why I chose the K section. And I bet you everybody here chose that for the same reason. So I'm asking you to just really be fair. We knew what we got when we purchased that land. We knew it was going to be zoned for 1 acre lots. And he wants to uplift the area. Why not put a 1 acre lot homes in there? Because that would be great. They're higher end homes and that would be nice. So I don't know. I think we bought it for a reason, and we did do the homework. We are not somebody that said, oh, it's going to be preserved. We knew what it was going to be. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Sharon Militano. I live at 3 Kankakee Trail, Palm Coast. I'm really kind of surprised at all of this, I guess because I came in from Chicago. I worked as an attorney in Chicago for 20 years. I don't know if many of you came from any areas where there were dense, what we call projects. And when this type of density becomes around you, and I had to do many legal situations when I would go to some of these places with this high density people living there. Well, it got to the point when you have HUD, you have Section 8, you have a camaraderie of all types of housing in these places. I had to hire an off-duty police officer to escort me into some of these areas. I don't want to see Palm Coast become this. Not saying we don't need, homes for other people to live in. I don't mean that. There's a lot of homes for rent in Palm Coast. And just like the other lady said, let's build nice homes for people to live in. We don't have to have massive high-density apartments. We could have, less homes, or they don't have to have $400,000 homes. But I don't think we have to have HUD homes and things like this. That's going to hurt the value of what we've spent $300,000 and $400,000 to buy as our homes. Because I honestly don't want to have to worry about going into some other neighborhood and having to be escorted by a police officer. I love where I live now, and I don't want to have to move back to Chicago and get shot at again. So I'm sorry, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Les Kinman. I live at 55 Karis Trail. I've been here for 13 and a half years, one of the first homes on Karis Trail. Like many others, we were told by our builders the land behind our home was wetlands and reserves. Now we are faced with life-changing events. One morning last week, I was sitting on my back porch. 2 does and 2 fawns were in my backyard. If this project goes forward, we will not see that again. That'll all be gone from us. I enjoy that. I moved here for that reason. That's the reason I wanted the woods behind me. If this change is allowed to take place, we will not see wildlife again. This past Thursday, the builder said, what we ultimately will build will be driven by what the market demands. So there are plans, they're in constant flux. We don't know what they're going to build. He's already told us we're going to build what the project demands. We don't know what the finished product is. We oppose apartments, we oppose the loss of greenery and wildlife. As the builder stated, whatever the market will bear. I can't speak for everyone, but I oppose going forward with this project. Think carefully about what this may do to your fellow citizens. They will be affected by your actions. The builder does not have interest at heart. They just want to run with their profits. The gentleman said the market will drive what we build. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight on this issue.
Next speaker.
Hello, I'm Margaret McDevitt. I have lived in my home there on Kathleen Trail for 25 years, and we haven't had a problem with flooding there. And I got, the hurricanes on their way now, so I got to thinking about flooding, and that land behind our house is a whole lot lower. It's 3 or 4 feet lower. So by the time they fill that in to build on, I think if we had houses back there, the 91 houses with driveways and roads, would be a lot less impact than having apartments and all these other roads. And there was a man I saw on TV from Houston who said the flooding was worse because of all the building, all the concrete, all the asphalt, the water has no place to go. So I thought about that with this building. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Susan Johnson. My husband and I live on 26 Kathleen Trail. We've lived there since 1998. This evening, City Council has the opportunity to act honorably and support our city and neighborhood. The out-of-town investor of PC 145 has stated that his research has shown single-family housing is not compatible with the existing US 1 properties. Yet, the property you see in the pictures provided is quite comparable and only 10 miles south on US 1. That development has I-95 and US 1 traffic and noise. The same railroad track that we have here, Destination Daytona Motorcycle Shop, a very large truck stop, restaurants, and hotels. Behind the most empty strip malls fronting on US 1 is a very nice development of single-family homes on mostly 1+ acre lots, as our neighboring property is currently zoned. Within the single-family home development on 1+ acres, there are large trees, ponds, and spacious homes and large lots, as you can see in the pictures. We have the opportunity to have this type of development here. Isn't that what the original city planners had in mind when they laid out the city plan with EST1 zoning to enhance our city while maintaining the integrity of our existing neighborhood? I suggest that you vote no on this developer's poorly thought out plan for PC 145 that has the capability of destroying our single-family middle-class neighborhood adjacent to it. Our mayor has said she wants our upcoming generations to look back on this time and say it is their good fortune that we preserved this rich community experience for each of them. She went on to say, now it is my turn to step forward as your mayor and to help solidify our community's commitment to managing our vibrant growth while protecting all of the natural beauty we hold so close. We in this neighborhood are hoping she was not excluding our area when she wrote these things in her inspiring message. While we live on the rural southern edge, we are also Palm Coast residents and we deserve your protection. Again, please vote no to send a final message to this out-of-town development.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Peter Petrosky. I reside at 67 Karis Trail. Just wanted to remind Mr. Noble, I sent you an email today or yesterday about the drainage easements, and I think Mr. Pappas covered those, but I'm still not really sure. I'm about halfway up there on the on Karis Trail where you see that drainage going up the backside of those lots, and that's a 40-foot drainage easement, and he's talking making 25-foot. So first of all, let me just say, if y'all pass this, please make them make a bigger buffer all the way around us that are there if you do go forward with this. But like the first gentleman said, I wanted to remind Ms. Shipley of what she said about being a hypocrite, about saying citizens that, you know, they get up here and say, we don't want this in our neighborhood. but it's already been approved. Here we are with something that is approved as far as 91 lots, estate lots that are approved. It's ready to go. We do not want apartments or any more. We don't want 350 units of anything back there, put it that way. I don't care what you put back there, but we don't need 350 units with 800 to 1,000 people coming out of there every day. We don't want it. Mr. Kloufus actually said something to the fact that the thought of having big, tall apartment buildings in the back of my property scares me too. And that's when he actually went and got recommendations, because Mr. Cuff had already motioned for it to be denied. Mr. Noble had seconded it, and then you questioned it, and that's when we ended up tabling the whole thing. So, I mean, there was obviously a consensus up there of not moving forward with this at that last meeting. So just because they added some single family, I'm not happy. There's still 348 units that are going to be built behind my house. Leave it at 91. That's what it's for. I don't know why we're even talking about zoning right now, because this has to get approved before you can change the zoning. I understand you presented it with that, but still, if this doesn't pass, guess what? Next item we don't move on to, because this has got to get passed. Not only that, I don't understand how that happens when this has got to go to the state to get approved, but we're still talking about moving forward with zoning issues. So, and back to Mr. Noble's point, he actually said something about it was a vague, as far as what, this was his last meeting, it was very vague. And again, the gentleman that spoke, you asked him directly what the projects was going to be, what the time frame or any of that. Oh, I don't know. Could be condos, could be apartments, could be townhomes. I guarantee it's going to be apartments. And there's going to be a lot of people living back there that don't own homes. I want owner-occupied homes. People that care about their property. Not people coming and going all hours of the night. How many times I got to call the sheriff already for people living back there and camping out and partying, and I hear radios in my backyard at 3 o'clock in the morning. So now I got to listen to who knows what. All right, so please disapprove this. Do not.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is B.J. Weckman. I'm at 44 Kathleen Trail. And at the last meeting, I spoke to you about the safety of the personal safety of the people coming in and out on Highway 1 onto a 60-mile-an-hour speed with trucks, and we already have memorials dotted all over for people who didn't make it, and there's no one even living there at this time. So that is still a concern that I hope that you'll factor in, even though it seemed to be addressed and they said that it was going to be looked at. I still don't see how they could put a stoplight, because Belterre is very close to that section, and I'm not sure what the amount of space between stoplights would be, but the Belterre stoplight doesn't even assist them coming out because it's off the wrong side of the road. But I have a new concern, which was also brought up earlier this evening, and that's about flooding. And I went to the city hall today, and I spoke with Denise Bevan on the phone and asked her about the flood zone area. And she did tell me that this is an approved AX area, but that we are in an A, which could turn into an AE just north of that. Another research thing that I found was that Magnolia Trace, 187 acres, is right across the street on Belterre at the Benton House. And that is up for sale currently for $1 million, and it is already zoned for high density, schools or retail or something. And Kathleen Trail is always underwater in our swells. After a couple of days of rain, we have that. If we don't have anywhere for that water to go now, will we have anywhere for it to go behind us? I realize it's flat, it's not a north-south running up and down, but if FEMA considers the section that's south of the airport to be an A zone and could turn into an AE zone, how much compacting that area is going to create that? I called my insurance agent, and she said that it's going to cost us between $1,000 and $2,000 a year to have insurance, flood insurance, which of course we should all have it anyway, but it still is a financial impact on us as well as being concerned about, our personal property, et cetera. So I just wanted to bring that up this evening to you and also remind you of the safety issue. And I thank you for your time.
Next speaker.
My name is Toby Tobin. I live in Palm Coast, and I have since 2000. And for most of that time, I've been a student of the real estate market in this area, both in Palm Coast and in Flagler County. I do live myself in a multifamily dwelling. It's a 4-story building, and there are 252 units, and to my knowledge, I don't think that our complex has made any impact negatively on the crime rate in our neighborhood, nor has it diminished the value of the single-family homes nearby. I don't think that the rental rate in the multifamily community is percentage of rental units is substantially different than the single-family units in the same neighborhood. But I'd like to speak to the issue of workforce housing, because this is something dear to my heart. I watched the run-up in prices in 03, 04, 05, when we were the fastest growing city and fastest growing county, respectively, for 2 years. I think right now we're getting back to the same, we're not growing for the same reasons, but we have a growing population. We need new construction. We need to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,400 to 1,800 new residential units constructed each year to accommodate our incoming increase in population. I believe it's safe to say that we are the only county and the only city of our size that has had no multifamily permits issued since the first of this year, and we're in month 9. We're the only city in the county that has no applications for building permits for multifamily buildings. Yet our median price house this month is about $228,000. Our smallest house that you can build in Palm Coast is 1,200 square feet. That works out to its square footage price for about $126 per square foot, median selling price. That works out to over $150,000 per home. We have, people think about workforce housing as HUD and Section 8. And to be sure, in our country, there is some of that, particularly in the larger metropolitan areas. But here, workforce housing means teachers, means policemen, firemen. It's the people who bag your groceries at Publix. Where are they going to live? It's becoming very hard to afford for a workforce to afford living in Palm Coast and in Flagler County generally. And that has a tremendous impact not only on the number of available workforce, but the quality. If you live in Volusia County and you're good at what you do, you get a job in Volusia County.
Thank you.
Why
for
would
your
you move
comments.
to, okay, thank you.
Thank
I'm taking
you.
my time, but thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Terry Howe, and my husband and I live on 29 Karas Trail. I want to thank you for listening to us tonight. It's really neat that we can come up here and voice our opinion to you and give you our thoughts. My first thought was, what is your vision for the city? And, a happy, healthy, growing economy, and that's ours too. And as our elected leaders, you guys look out for us, and, do you have to balance progress with what's already been established and relied upon? Several people have already mentioned the Green Belt with 90 homes. That's what we thought. That had a huge impact in where we bought and where we built our homes. So we request that you stand by the established guidelines. They bought into it knowing what the vision was. I know you've heard that already. And maybe fear is the biggest problem here, that this project will spiral down to a really bad area. That's our fear. So what can we do? We keep saying what we don't want done, but what can we do? Can we require that they have a high standard? Like, limit the number of the 750 square foot apartments. What about a commitment to nicer amenities? They don't even have a commitment to build a pool. How can you have a luxury type housing and say that we're only going to have a pool or pool tables? Something like that. Those are their words. That's an exact quote from their presentation. If you were looking for a multi-housing area, how likely would you choose a complex that didn't even have a pool in it in Florida? What about putting up a large, wall to prevent the extra lighting, the extra noise, the extra foot traffic? What about speed bumps down on our street on Caras and on Carrot Trail? There's already a lot of cut-through traffic, and with the commercial and everything else coming through, I can just see more cut-through traffic there. I hate it when people complain and they don't have any solutions. So this next one might be my best solution. And Miss Virginia, I had gave you some handouts that I thought was such a neat idea. This is called Next Generation Housing. It would require a larger lot plan. And hey, that's exactly what they brought into. So this might be exactly what might be the thing. What it is, it's 2 homes under 1 roof. Let me explain. Suppose you have an established parents with 3 or 4 bedroom home, and you have a doorway, and then you have a 2-bedroom home for your daughter, son-in-law, and grandchild. And fast forward 15 to 20 years, now you have an established family with kids and crazy teenage schedules and things like that, and down the hallway door opens into Grandma and Grammy's house. So now you have a multifunctional thing under 1 roof that would require a larger land plot. Maybe that's the key here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Yes. My name is Ken Deloach. I debated about speaking. I'm not an established resident like the rest of the people here. I've been here 3 months. And guess what? My background was commercial real estate, or commercial construction. So I've been involved in a lot of this and what they're talking about doing. And Mr. Noble, that was one of the reasons I came up here, because you put him on the point of asking him what he would start first and what his time schedule was. They're not going to like what I'm going to say, but being in the commercial construction, as part of construction, for an investor, it's about maximizing their return. And when he bought, I'm telling you what he was going to do first, they're going to do nothing but a bait and switch on you. As soon as you approve of this, they're going to go with what's the most profitable. That's all I've got to say.
Next speaker.
Dorothy DeVoe Sperber, and I'm a resident of Palm Coast. Sometimes it's very difficult to make the right decision, but every unit of local government in Florida has a legal obligation to provide for the housing needs of its entire community. Commonly referred to as the Growth Management Act, Chapter 163, Part 2 of the Florida statutes sets forth certain requirements. From what I have seen this evening, this development meets those requirements. The county school system is training our young adults to become firefighters, certified in certain industries as they graduate. These are called our flagship programs. We are becoming known around the state for these programs. Where are these individuals once they graduate and get hired? Yes, we're going to hire them. Where are they going to live? In Flagler County, 29% of homeowners and 47% of renters are extremely housing burdened. What does this mean? It means that they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. And rents and home prices are continuing to rise again. Flagler needs 6,150 rental units to meet the needs of struggling households. I've not even talked about economic development factor yet. Do you have a ready workforce? That's what a site selector is going to say. We'll probably say, yes, we do. But where are they going to live? Not everyone desires to live in a single-family residence. Even if they choose to or can afford to, they will choose to live in a different type of facility. Multifamily developments are ideal for these types of individuals and choices. Smart growth development, it's not ugly, it's not substandard, and it is your obligation to provide housing for everyone. I have no doubts that as the largest city in the county, you will be presented with more and more of these decisions that you'll have to make. Government and private industries and endeavors are going to become your responsibility. Do the right thing and approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. My name is Jimmy Milholland. I'm a resident of Palm Coast, a small business owner, and the chair of the Flagler County Chamber. I'm here to talk about this concept. I've looked at it, I've read through it, I've read the declarations, there's some good things in there. I do believe having the commercial industry down on the south end of US 1 could be a genesis to start the movement up the US 1 corridor. We have nothing on the north, very little on the south. We have lots of possibilities here. I understand the concerns of the citizens in the surrounding area, but I do believe that the developer has looked at that. He's taken that in consideration. I've seen the different variations of the renderings that they have provided. I read through those. They're very, very good. I think he's done a good job with that. I do know that we need to have the availability for rental properties throughout the city and the county. Right now, being a property manager, I can't get a house out there for less than $1,200 a month. So you're individual, single or married with a family, looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 to 1,500 square foot, you're looking anywhere between $1,250 and $1,400 a month. There's nothing in Palm Coast under $1,000. That's a monthly rent for someone to pay. We have to be able to provide them. And the reason we have those outrageous rents is we don't have the rentals available. We've seen a spike in the past year and a half. We're going to have around 1,000 people a year coming into our county, into our city. We only have around 745 single-family residential property permits pulled this year so far. We'll hit that 1,000 mark, but I don't feel that's enough. I've been here 17 years, in the industry for 17 years, doing commercial and property management. I do believe this is a good project to look at, and I would like for you all to look at the future that we have in our city and vote for the right future for our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Len Dignard, and I live at 41 Kathleen Trail. From the front, I live just about 125 feet, plus or minus, from the 25-foot buffer represented in this request. Most of us bought or built our homes knowing this area was zoned for EST1, and that's a fact that none of us can ignore. We are not unreasonable in our expectations. We understand development will happen. But again, dropping 248 multi-family apartment units in the middle of the existing single-family homes is not compatible with our current neighborhoods. Mr. Blessing has his lawyers and a consultant, Mr. Beebe, all who have extensive knowledge on the inner workings of this process. What do we have? We're a bunch of everyday people here who live, work, pay taxes, and then rely on our government for its processes to stand behind us and do what is right, as you did earlier this year. Mr. Blessing tries hard to come off as our friend. Don't be influenced by that. He is not our friend, he is a developer with the right in our society to buy something, develop it, even sell it off at a profit. He also has the right to request a change to the zoning and develop it in any way that is approved by you. It is the American way, no argument. In fact, I don't dislike him, I just don't like what he wants to do to us. However, Mr. Blessing has come here tonight relying on past studies stating that we in Palm Coast need multifamily units and our starter homes. However, some things have changed since some of those studies were published. While building hasn't started for many of them, there are multiple parcels within the vicinity of this parcel that are currently zoned for multifamily housing. I listed a fair number in the letter that I sent to you council members. Honestly, from what you can see, he doesn't have a corner on that market. There's many of those out there, and they're not being built on. As I've noted, rezoned parcels are cropping up around our city. We don't need to rubber stamp this one. We do recognize that you have multiple competing interests to balance, and your job may not be easy. However, as the last time we asked you, trade places with us. Would you want this in your backyard after you purchased your property with the fact that it is zoned as single-family units from the beginning? Please remember, we're not challenging the developer's right to develop. We are not challenging his commercial change. What we are challenging is his desire to change the total complexity of our neighborhood. We again need your support. If we have only you. We have no other recourse. Please do what is right. Send him a message. Vote this down tonight. Thank you for your time and interest.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Charles Ebert, Palm Coast. Mr. Noble, you asked a question about when he's going to build. Hidden Lakes of Palm Coast started in 2007, and there's still 100 to 150 houses still to be built. Grand Reserve, D.R. Horton just purchased it, and they're starting to build there. Their home's starting at the low 100s. I understand about multi-purpose buildings and so forth, and for people for rental properties and so forth, but unfortunately, this property was bought for the wrong purpose. And I think that it needs to be turned down, and he needs to do his construction and do his commercial up front and whatever else is left over. Again, Hidden Lakes started in 2007. It is 2017. It's been 10 years now, and we're still building. So I suggest that you turn this project down. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, George Mayo, Palm Coast. My only question is, there are several parcels that are in the conservation area that the developer called out parcels that he would like to purchase. If he is unable to purchase that, will the owners of those parcels be able to build? And if they want single-family houses or whatever, will they be able to do that? And if so, where will access to those parcels come from? Will they be allowed a driveway coming from the rental units? Will it be easement coming from there, or will they have to access it through one of the other regular streets? So that's my question. What will they do with those out parcels if he cannot purchase it and the owners decide to build?
Thank you. Next speaker. Okay, we'll close public comment. I want to thank you for your patience and understanding. I know this is a very emotional issue for everyone in this room, and I really certainly appreciate your comments, as do our council members. So I think what I'd like to do, since there was a couple themes that ran through this that I think it'd be nice to address, and crime being one of them that we hear all the time. So I know Mark Harmon is not in the audience, and I don't want to put Commander Weber necessarily up to the task, but I do want to really clarify the point of how many call volumes in Palm Coast do we know of, in particular with our apartment complexes?
I haven't heard that our apartment complexes are higher than the single family. I don't think, and I think, didn't Mr. Carmen even address that at a public meeting recently, Ray?
I'm not sure. I know he talked about the trail system and not having additional crime, but I haven't heard of increased crime at multifamily or rental.
I mean, we have a number of multifamily that are virtually no crime at all.
So the apartment complex that's over on Belterre that was built over in the B section, I don't know what that's called.
Pine Lakes and Belterre, yes.
So we have no idea that was built in what year and?
Before I came here, so it was probably early 2000s.
So as far as the crime, we've not seen an increased level upon approvals for apartment complexes. I think that's important to clarify for the record.
All the stats I've seen does not support that idea.
Can you speak about the flooding issues? Or staff or whomever can address those.
I can tell you that's one of the reasons why you see so much ponds on here, is that all of this water, it has to be contained on site. It won't, if anything, it may actually help the drainage, but that's what would be our goal when we look at this. That's true with any parcel that's developed. It is going to be totally different. Ray, have we?
Yeah, it's part of our flood protection program that we were scored so highly nationally. Is we have one of the most strenuous codes in the state of Florida for the program, and when they come in, if they come in for platting, we're going to make sure that they meet that code, and then they're not going to be flooding surrounding neighborhoods or areas.
So these are really retention areas. I know people sometimes refer to them as lakes or
Yeah, they're treatment. There's treatment areas, and there's also capacity of holding water back because even St. Johns River Water Management District requires that a drop of water from your site can't increase off-site. You got to retain all that water on site.
Okay, and why it goes to the state is because that is the state process, correct?
That's correct.
So what kind of comments can we expect from the state under the evaluation?
It really depends, because you're going to have a number of different state agencies beyond just the State Land Planning Agency.
Can you name all the state agencies?
The Department of Transportation, Department of Environmental Protection, St. John's Water Management District, the Northeast Florida Regional Council, and each agency, based on their role, will provide comments applicable to what their role is in the state. So DOT would provide comments, if any, probably related to this project's impact on US 1. They might have additional questions that would have to be addressed. And the same thing with the water DEP, who monitors wetlands, might have additional questions about what is the wetland quality here, and does this proposed project, what is its impact on the function of whatever the remaining wetlands might be under on the site.
I know Department of Economic Opportunity is somewhat of a new entity. I mean, maybe a few years old since Governor Scott took over and dismantled DCA, which is Department of Community Affairs. So how many of these projects have you presented to them? And when they, since it's a different sort of entity now, do they take into account contiguous areas, adjacent neighborhoods? Is that something, or is it just the development itself?
Their role these days is to provide comments that would be based on state interest, is how they put it. A lot of discretion has been granted local government, especially when it comes to compatibility issues. I think in some view that is now really a local issue, and it's up to local government to make that determination that this is compatible or just not compatible. If there was a state resource that is going to be negatively impacted by this project, that's what they would call out. If there was a historic site and we have not provided conditions that would preserve or maintain the quality of that historic site, that's something that could be commented on.
The natural habitat, I know the Department of Environmental Protection, they do an assessment to determine, I mean, if there's any sort of natural habitat that we're interfering with this development.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So those would fall under comments as well as far as the regulatory agencies go?
Yes. If it's, again, for items that are of state interest. So if you have a state-listed animal on the site, and there's going to be questions about what's going to happen to that animal, like gopher tortoise, and of course those things are captured by our land development code, but it could be brought up as issues by the reviewing agency.
And a lot of questions, again, we've heard before, statements. We've talked about rental and crime and transportation, and those will be addressed for state agencies. I guess the last question about, from the out parcels, will they be able to build if they cannot? I mean, really would be answered by the developer. I mean, that's not really.
Well, they're actually, from a land use standpoint, they're in conservation, so they can't build. And then when we go through the plating process, we do need to provide an easement, an access where in the future they can get to their property in the conservation area, technically.
As far as the standards of Palm Coast, because that's been addressed many times, we have very high standards. So when you're looking at the unincorporated photos that were shown, that would never happen in Palm Coast.
Absolutely not.
We would not have anything developed at an industrial aspect that looks like that. We have, you know.
You're speaking of the photos the
Yeah,
developer showed?
yeah.
Okay.
So those are all in unincorporated. So I think I just want to make that point very clear too, that as far as standards go, well, we probably have one of the strictest standards that I know of many communities and cities as far as aesthetics, requirements, landscape requirements, setbacks, trees, those kind of things. So I think that would probably make a good statement for the record, because I think they were showing different apples and oranges kind of thing on US 1. So again, I'm going to open it back up to our council for questions and discussions, and we'll go from there.
Can I start?
Yes.
Real quick, I was on a fact-finding mission, and I did a little bit of this before I came tonight, but I'm not sure how many of us are in the audience are renters or not, but in your particular neighborhood, there's 2 houses available for rent. 5 Kathleen Trail and 71 Cashmere, and they're both about 1,600 square feet, and they're $1,350 a month. The Pine Lakes apartment complex has 1 unit available that's 909 square feet. It's $1,100 a month. This is the type of availability in Palm Coast. This is part of the issue, and I think I saw a lot of faces and heads nodding in disapproval when somebody was saying that you can't find a place to rent in Palm Coast for under $1,000. And I really beg you to go and try to find a place under $1,000. There's a shortage right now that has hyperinflated our prices, and I'm a homeowner and I'm admitting that. Right now we're about 10% overpriced inside Palm Coast, but it's because of the lack of our housing inventory, and it does create a shortage for workforce type level employees that have $100,000 in student loans. These kids graduate college and they have degrees where they can earn $70,000 a year, but they can't afford a $2,000 a month mortgage payment, but they also can't afford to be paying $1,500, $1,600 a month for rent.
That's not an argument for me, because I think the rentals, I'm sure, are going to be over $1,000. I know I asked last time, could you guarantee that the rentals would be under $1,000? And I couldn't get an answer, because most rentals, and these are really nice, they're probably going to be $1,000 or more. I don't know, I'm just saying. But I usually don't talk at meetings because I don't ever want to be quoted, but seeing I was quoted, the reason, okay, everyone came here because you wanted to speak up about what you want behind your house, what you don't want behind your house, and you did that. The City Council listened. We told them, no, go back to the drawing board, because it's not going to happen. The people don't want businesses behind their homes. I think they did a great job coming back with most of the houses here. It's 3 houses thick before it even gets to conservation land or ponds or something. I did have a problem with the 2 end pieces that he said he would take away, so those houses won't even have anything behind them but a pond and the commercial that's already there anyways. So I think what they did really works with not having businesses behind you, having a big buffer, a huge buffer behind you. I don't think there's a problem with apartments bringing crime. A lot of people you just wouldn't realize are renting in Pine Lakes and some of these other apartment complexes, but they're full, and there's just no place for my son, when he goes to college and he wants to get out and move into someplace, there is nothing for him. He doesn't want to rent a house, obviously. So I think your fears about crime and stuff. I don't think you should have those fears. I think there's apartments that are fine. They're not going to be HUD. They've already told us it's not going to be Section 8. And I think there's a great buffer that they've given us that I think should work out. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had one question either for staff or the applicant. I realize the master plan that we're being shown tonight isn't a site plan, but obviously there's been a lot of work done on the drainage in what would be the northeast corner of the site, and it appears to connect to off-site drainage. Is that correct? I'm looking at the what I assume is a drainage canal on the north side of the conservation area.
Area here?
No, well, that
this
canal there and that, yeah, the V-shaped canals that.
Yeah, let me try to answer that. Those are existing stormwater ditches, easements that exist, are part of the city stormwater system.
Right, and
we have not changed those. We will not change those. They're already in an easement.
Where do they go, I guess, is my question.
They start, if you look up to the north.
There's like a 70-something acre parcel the city owns.
Starting up there, that comes off-site through this property, up against the conservation area, right there, and then it veers north along the eastern property line and goes on out there.
Okay, so
those are not created by us, those are
drainage.
existing,
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I guess my comment is similar to Ms. Shipley's. I remember when the Pine Lakes Apartments were built, because I live less than a half a mile from them, and I remember the single-family home neighbors, including many people who are members of my church in that area, coming close to losing their minds about the dangers of having apartments and having renters in your area. You know, I think the applicant has done a very good job to try to address the neighborhood concerns, and I am very sensitive to the argument that he knew what he was buying when he bought it. And there's plenty of other multifamily sites around the community. The problem that I have as a city council member with that argument is we don't have another applicant in here asking to develop one of those multifamily sites. And the city needs multifamily housing. It needs rental housing. I tend to agree with Council Member Shipley that this is going to be far from providing affordable housing for our younger residents and I've got several nephews and nieces with $100,000 of student loans. I have a child that fortunately escaped that bad a situation, but still is paying off student loans and will be for years. I think we need to do what we can to encourage this kind of innovative development, and I'm deeply sorry for the folks that are hoping that can stay woods and stay deers and stay foxes forever, because that's what my single-family area in the B section was like when I built my home 28 years ago. But I'm impressed with what the applicant has done, and all I can say is if this project goes forward, I, for one, I'm going to do everything I can as a city council member to hold them to their commitments. There seems to be a mistrust in the community that I think one of the gentlemen said bait and switch, that we're going to approve something tonight and all of a sudden there's going to be 500 apartment units looming over their single-family homes. That isn't going to happen. I realize this isn't a site plan in terms of plats, in terms of final development approval, but if this goes forward, I'm expecting the final development approval to look better than this in terms of buffering and in terms of protecting the adjacent single-family homes. So that's my comments for now.
Vice Mayor Nobile.
Well, from the first meeting, I didn't recall saying that if they put single-family homes in, that would be okay. What I said was that we have a series of residents who purchased property with a known property zoning in their area. And I need to be justified in flipping that and changing what these people invested in. This did not do that. This did not give me the comfort that, adding a few single-family homes is going to change the entire project. I fear what's going to happen here is the multifamily homes or buildings are going to be developed. The commercial isn't going to be developed, and the single-family homes aren't going to be developed for a long time from now. And what's going to happen is that the single-family home lots are not going to catch the value. They're going to degrade when and I'm not talking about the people who are going to live in the complexes. I'm talking about the traffic and there's going to be a lot of people there, and somebody's going to go, well, I don't want to drive through all this to get to my home. I just am not justified. I'm not seeing justification in this plan to override changing the zoning from what all these people purchased, into this idea. Got a whole bunch of stuff here. But as far as a few things that came up, look, Palm Coast is not the only place to build in Flagler County. So you can build, I mean, to say if it's not built in Palm Coast, it can't happen, doesn't make sense to me. There's tons of land outside of Palm Coast in Flagler County, which is a stone throw away from the fire department, from the police force, from the hospital, and so on and so forth. So, again, and this goes to, I just don't, it's not justifying me going against the people who bought this land with their anticipation of what was going to be behind them, because even the single-family home is not what they bought. They didn't buy all those homes lined up behind them. They bought, with the idea of estates, 1-acre homes in there. Second, the workforce thing, if you build an apartment, that does not create a workforce. Jobs create a workforce. When you have the jobs, the building will come, and it doesn't necessarily have to come in Palm Coast.
I've been asked, please.
So, that point doesn't fly with me either. And there's other multi-unit developments or apartments in Flagler County. In those, which is more indicative of this project, behind the 7-Eleven on 100, and right off the 100, right behind, Target, on the cross street from Target, there are high volumes of crime in those. Okay, the ones in Palm Coast, in the middle of Palm Coast, like the Pine Lakes one, that's a different style development. That development is first of all, it's in an area that backgrounds parks and schools and stuff like that. I would see it there. This is just not my idea. Of a good scenario. And again, I'm not talking about this development. I'm more concerned with the people around this development who are already there, who already made their investments in this property. And, they don't want it to stay empty. They want it to stay what it was originally zoned for. Now, these are, I'm a District 4 councilman. I do what's good for all of Palm Coast, but these are the people who contacted me because I'm the guy that's listed in there, and I heard nothing of any level of support for this from those people, and I have seen nothing today that would change my idea and say, okay, it's justified to switch on these residents right now. I'm just, that's where my concerns are, and that's what I got. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. This is a very difficult choice. It's not easy. I do have many friends that are in the workforce currently, teachers and police officers that are looking for affordable apartments. They've been struggling quite a bit, and this does bring that element. I do think, going back, the developer has taken a tremendous amount of time to listen very intently to our concerns of it being contiguous to a residential neighborhood, what that looks like. I also do know that Palm Coast is very, very strict on the aesthetics and what we develop within our community and what we allow. So, I think, like some of my colleagues have already indicated, that this accomplishes a few items that I know we need in our community, and I know is going to have an impact. There's a long process to go. This is, we've got many, many steps before this, so those are my comments, and I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Mayor, again, what the motion would be on the ordinance for the comprehensive plan amendment. I've yet to read the title for the rezoning.
Yep.
So this is just for the comprehensive plan amendment.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Move for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nope.
It passes 4-1.
We need to read the second.
Yes.
Second one.
All right. This is the title of the rezoning ordinance, which is an ordinance of the City Council, City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the official zoning map as established in Section 2.06 of the City of Palm Coast Unified Land Development Code. This ordinance amends the zoning designation for approximately 145 acres, more or less, from light industrial, that's Industrial 1, high-intensity commercial, COM 3, and suburban estate residential district, Estate 1, to Master Plan Development, or MPD, with a development agreement. The subject property is more particularly described in Exhibit A and graphically depicted in Exhibit B to the ordinance. This ordinance provides for severability, for conflicts, for non-codification, and provides for an effective date.
Mayor, our presentation was for both, so we don't have any additional comments.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nope.
Passes 4-1. Okay, we'll now move to agenda item number 11.
Oh, my God. 23.
I haven't slept for 2 weeks. I know.
Madam Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, to annex property to be included within the corporate area and city limits of the City of Palm Coast upon adoption of this ordinance, providing for the annexation of approximately 109.15 acres of property described in Exhibit A to this ordinance, lying in the areas proximate to the existing city limits of the City of Palm Coast, Flagler County, Florida. This ordinance provides for annexation in accordance with the voluntary annexation provisions of Section 171.044 Florida statutes, and provides for the annexation of real property and amendment of corporate and city limits. This ordinance provides for rights and privileges resulting from the annexation and the effect of the annexation upon land uses. Lastly, it provides for an effect on ad valorem taxes, for effect on businesses and occupations, for conflicts, severability, and for an effective date.
Mayor, City Council, this is also one of those that the next item, which is a resolution, are tied together. So, but no long presentation on this. This is strictly bringing this property within our city limits. It's on Colbert Lane, just north of Sea Ray, and south, or Roberts Road, if you will, and south of Palm Coast Plantation. The ordinance is the legal process to change our boundaries. The resolution is a typical annexation agreement that we have for virtually all our annexations, nothing unusual in it. And they are obviously will have to come before you and get final approval of the whole development process, but this is the first step. So with that, we believe it's ready for approval.
Okay. Any questions or comments, council members? I'll open up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make comments on agenda item number 11, please do so at this time.
Good evening. Dennis Bear on behalf of the property owners. I'm just here to answer any questions. Obviously, after your last hearing, probably less is better. So if you have any questions about the property, but just by brief way of introduction, this will eventually be developed with 154 units of single-family residential and 461 units of multifamily It's been approved by the county, and we're working with your staff now on the adoption of the development agreement. So be happy to answer any questions you might have.
But, by the way, just for clarification, by state law, we have to accept the entitlements the county has approved. We cannot reduce those entitlements unless a property owner agrees to it. So that's why he is outlining what's already been approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker. So now I'll close public comment. I'll take it back to this council and entertain a motion.
Move approval?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. So we'll move to agenda item number 12, which is the resolution.
No additional comments except for this is a resolution, so it just takes one approval tonight, and then the ordinance will come back to you at your next meeting for
I'll just
final.
read this for the record. Resolution approving the pre-annexation agreement with Sunbelt Palm Coast Marina LLC and WGA Investments LLC for the property known as Marina del Palma. Okay. Any questions, council members? Open it to the public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number 12, please do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. I'll take it back to the council.
Move approval?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 13. Mr. Reichman, you're busy tonight.
Yes, we're doing a lot of ordinances, doing a lot of reading. This is a quasi-judicial matter, and this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the official zoning map as established in Section 2.06 of the City of Palm Coast Unified Land Development Code. We're amending the official zoning map for 4,585 acres, more or less, of certain real property generally located along both sides of U.S. Highway 1, extending from Palm Coast Parkway to Old Kings Road, and being more particularly described in the attached Exhibit A, modifying the Palm Coast MPD, a development agreement, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Again, this is quasi-judicial, so if there's been any ex-parte communications, those need to be disclosed at this time.
I want to say it's about time. Hopefully something moves on this property.
Yes. This is another one. We have our fair share of, paired up items. This takes a combination of the ordinance, which takes 2 readings, and then the next one is a resolution. Yes, this is all that development along US 1. The biggest question is why does it have cows out there? And we've had some bites a long time ago, but it's stayed pretty idle. All of a sudden, it is hot, and people are ready to go, and they're wanting to update some of their standards into today's world. And Ray is going to take the lead to talk about what the minor changes are.
Yeah, just a brief introduction before Mr. Hoover gives a staff presentation. This is a DRI, which is a Development of Regional Impact, which, what Mayor Holland was talking about, going through that state scrutiny. And I mean, it was in 2004 when this was approved. It goes through all the state agencies for approval, and then council, adopted the DRI-DO back in 2004. It's such a large project. It's almost 5,000 acres. So you can imagine, back in 2004, you're kind of taking a map and saying, I think residential is going to go here. I think multifamily here, commercial, industrial, because you have all these entitlements that are part of the DRI-DO. How many units, how much square footage of commercial and intensity. So we can anticipate this, like with Mr. Landon's introduction, we have a lot of activity happening right now, and this won't be the only modification to the master plan development, because you got to remember, this is a 20-year plan. Things change. It's been since 2004. So basically, with this application, both with the MPD and the DRI, there are no changes to entitlements, as far as how many units, how much intensity for commercial. Basically, what this application is today is moving it around a little bit, that the DRI contemplates that will be done and will continue to be done throughout the time period. So with that brief introduction, Mr. Hoover has the technical details.
Good evening, everyone. Palm Coast Park DRI is 4,677 acres, and it's located along both sides of US 1, and you can see at the very southern edge there, it's on the north side of Hargrove Grade Industrial Park, and it goes up to where Old Kings Road intersects with US 1. And they're proposing to do two things: amend their MPD and also modify the DRI development order. So the project goes back about 13 years, and in about 10 years ago, the northwest portion of the DRI was rezoned to sawmill planned unit development. Then later that same year, they amended and restated the Palm Coast Park DRI, which was the first one. Going to fall 2008, another substantial portion of the DRI was rezoned to master plan development. Then, as we went up to 2011, they did an MPD agreement for almost all the land in the DRI, excluding 92 acres that was owned by Florida Agricultural Museum in the city of Palm Coast. And at the same time, they did the second amended and restated Palm Coast Park DRI. So they're doing a little bit similar to that point. What was key there is with an MPD over the entire thing, it makes it a lot easier for everyone to monitor and know what's going on. So to give you an idea of the scope of the project, we put this in here just to give everybody a little bit of an idea. And in the right-hand column, where it says acres, you'll see 1,528 acres. That's like a maximum area. And you'll see as we go through the slides that the residential area is increasing a little bit, but it still does not go past the cap there. So you can also see there's 3.2 million square feet of non-residential uses that are permitted. The MPD, what we're really doing is changing the zoning on 7 different tracts. And all these tracts are located west of US 1 and north of the industrial park. So when we go to the next slide, we'll show you graphically what's happening. In the very bottom right-hand corner there is tracks 1 and 2, and they're actually, the only thing they want to do is just add the potential to build single-family units there. Additionally, in the western part up here, 5A and 6A, they want to, track 6A and 7A, they want the possibility of single-family, again, with the multifamily that already exists. And then in the southern portion, where Matanzas Woods Parkway intersects with US 1, they want to change some uses there to single-family and multifamily that were previously commercial or industrial. And then further to the east on the light blue track, that would be going from flex-type uses where you could do office or industrial. It would simply be industrial now.
So just basically to add that, it makes sense to us planning staff to kind of separate the industrial from the single family, and that's basically what they're doing, is making this single family, all this contiguous for residential, and then moving that industrial over.
In planning staff, the Land Development Code requires the planning staff to look at 5 criteria very closely when we're reviewing a GRI or a rezoning. And these 5 criteria are, we outlined our findings in detail in the staff report, and I'm sure you don't want to hear it word for word, but in summary, 3 things I think summarize it pretty well. The changes will not increase the DRI entitlements or create any incompatibility issues. The proposed land uses are already permitted in the DRI and MPD and are simply being relocated to other parts in the project as proposed, with the changes will still meet the comprehensive plan. The DRI is even more simple, the changes, and essentially on 2 of the tracks, they're going to change the land use designation from business institutional to residential. And that's, those are in the areas there where Matanzas Woods Parkway intersects with US 1. And so that's really the only change there. And then we increased the acreage on this graphic, so it shows that the residential is 1,467 acres, and previously it was 1,373, and I think that's capped at like 1,528. Planning staff and the planning board recommend approval to the City Council of the amendment to the Palm Coast Park MPD Development Agreement, application number 3362, and also recommend that the third amended and restated Palm Coast Park DRI Development Order, application number 3369, also be approved. And the applicant is present. There's actually 2 property owners, and Michael Schmetto is the representative for both of the property owners.
Good evening, Council. Michael Schmetto for Palm Coast Land and Carter Sawmill Creek. This has been about 3 months in the making. There's a lot of development activity up in that corridor, as Mr. Landon said. We're here to answer any questions that you have. I just remind you that this is a DRI. It's a 20 to 30-year living, breathing document that will change not only today, but sometimes in the future. Some of you have had experience with the Hammock Dunes DRI that just closed out, I think it was in 2013, and that was probably about 25 years before that completed its construction. So we appreciate staff and their ability to accommodate our request and working together to bring this project to fruition. So we're here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions, council members?
Just kind of to orient myself, this does include what I think of as the Sawmill Estates property. I thought that went further north, up beyond Old Kings Road, than the outline that Bill shows.
This is the northern part of the Sawmill Creek property, the one that Lowe had under contract in 08. Do you have the map?
It's approximately. Okay. That's approximately Sawmill.
That is.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Where it used to be. The light green is the Sawmill area, the conservation area, the Tortoise Preserve.
Okay, the map that Bill put up originally, it just didn't look like it went far enough north to take in all of Sawmill, but I see it, yeah.
Other council comments or questions? I'll open up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make comments on agenda item number 13, please do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. I'll take it back to this council and entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 14 is a resolution approving the third amended and restated Palm Coast Park Development of Regional Impact, application number 3369.
Mayor, that was part of our previous presentation. We have nothing further to add other than just a reminder this is a resolution, so it will be adopted tonight if you approve it. The ordinance will come back to you at your next meeting for final action.
Any questions, comments?
Approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. We hope for good things. Thank you. Agenda item number 15, Mr. Reichman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, he's going to read it. Go ahead. It's that ordinance thing.
Let the poor woman read it.
Yes.
Okay. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, amending Section 236, meetings of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Palm Coast, providing for severability codification for conflicts and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, City Council, this one's married to the second one here, too. So just a couple of comments on this. These were changes that City Council asked us to put together. The attorney changed the ordinance, and then also the next item are your policies and procedures. They accomplished two things. First, you asked that your policies be changed to allow for public comment at the beginning of all your meetings, both your regular workshops and your regular business meetings, but with a limit of 30 minutes. So if it goes beyond 30 minutes, then you go to your agenda at that time. If it's less than 30 minutes worth of public comments, you just move on to the next item on your agenda, is what you requested, and that's what this accomplishes. The other thing that is accomplished with these documents, in particular the ordinance, is it changes your evening meeting time to 6 p.m. versus 6:30 p.m. So the idea is that public comment would start at 6. The latest someone would expect their agenda item to come up would be 6:30. So the ordinance changes the meeting time. The resolution changes your policy on when the public comments occur. As before, the ordinance takes 2 readings, but the agenda or the policies would change with the resolution. So your next, if adopted, your next workshop, which is next Tuesday, would start with public comment, but your next city council business meeting would still start at 6:30. No, excuse me, it would start at 9 o'clock, and then the next one after that would start at 6. Yes, we'll try to get that straight. But your next business meeting starts at 9 o'clock. Your first meeting in October will start at 6 if you adopt these. Hopefully that was clear as mud.
Any questions or comments, council members? I'll open up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number 15, please do so at this time.
Are you doing 15 and 16 at once?
We will take those comments now, Jack, yes.
Let me get this off so I don't make whistles. When they opened the workshops for the public, the way I understood it was that after the workshop, right, if we had comments on the agenda of the workshop, that's why they opened it up, so that we can state our opinions for the workshop. Now, if you're going to take that away from us, in other words, you got to come in at half an hour before and state what we want before, that we can't make any statements about what's on the agenda for the workshop. That's what I thought it was all about. So if you do that, then open up the agenda after each agenda so that the public can speak on that particular case. See? So in other words, what you're doing is depriving us of stating something on the workshop. Like if whatever comes up on the agenda, if I want to say something about it, I can't, because I already have my 30 minutes. And then whatever you do on the workshop means we have no say. And that's why I understood that's why they did it, so that we can have some kind of a say. So I would suggest if you're going to do that, then let us say something on each agenda. Thank you very much.
Next speaker. And I'll close public comment. Do you want
Wait till I put my ears on.
Madam Mayor, would you like me to respond to that?
I'll respond,
Okay.
that's fine.
Teamwork makes the train work.
Okay, so Jack, just for an explanation, the beginning of the workshop why we opened up. If people do not want to stay throughout the whole workshop, but they want to comment at the beginning of the workshop, that gives the ability for residents to come into the workshop, speak on an agenda item, and if they don't want to wait, they can leave. If they want to wait and listen to the entire discussion of the workshop, they have an opportunity to speak at the end of the workshop. We're actually opening this up for more ability for public comment. And as far as each agenda item, everything you hear at a workshop, we also the following week you hear at a city council meeting. Each agenda item you have the opportunity to always speak at individually. So we are very, very proud of our opportunity to let the public speak. So just for clarification's sake, it doesn't take away from your ability to speak at the workshop. It allows people, if they don't want to stay throughout the whole workshop, to make public comment on agenda items. So thank you. Okay, any questions or comments? None, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 16, resolution amending city council policies and procedures relating to public input at council meetings.
I have no further comments.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 17, resolution master solar lease agreements with Florida Power and Light Company for the installation of solar canopy devices at City Hall, Holland Park, and Community Center, and for the installation of solar tree devices at Central Park and Town Center.
Mayor, City Council, we work really hard on our brand, our image, and it's really nice when it's recognized and people come forth because of our green brand. I mean, if you think about this building, it was LEED certified, has Water Star status, our nature parks, our trails, the like, have really got attention. LED lights, our street lights all go on LED lights. There's a number of things. We have an electric car charger out front. And it did not pass the attention of Florida Power and Light. They recognize what we been trying to do, and that is be very environmentally friendly. And they have a program that includes solar power versus using petroleum products to generate their electricity. So when they came to us, I was really excited about the fact that we had an opportunity to partner. I am a little concerned because they want to create more shade, and I'm afraid I'm going to have employees fighting over who gets to park under the shade at some of these facilities. No, we'll work through that. But I will tell you that creating shade in our parking lots will be very popular. And then they also are talking about providing some shade that also has the solar cells on them in Central Park. So this is a very innovative program. It took a partnership. That partnership needs to be approved by City Council. I hope you agree that this is exciting and very, very positive. I'm going to put a plug in also, Larry, if you could, before you leave, after this presentation, talk about your new facility here in Palm Coast and when that is going to have a grand opening, because their new service center here, which is all about providing service day-to-day and also storms, is a big deal to us. So we had a couple of exciting things going on with FP&L. So Denise, am I turning it over? I'm going to turn it over to you. And okay, I'll turn it over to Larry and he can do the introductions. But Denise has done all the lifting from the city on this. Obviously, from an environmental standpoint, it's she's excited about this also. So Larry, if you'll talk about the details.
Absolutely. Well, good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Larry Volanek. I'm Regional Manager with Florida Power and Light. With me this evening, I have Anuj Chakshi. He's a project manager with our FPL Solar Now, which is a community solar project. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Anuj to do the presentation. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Larry, and thank you, Mayor and Council members. The FPL Solar Now program is an easy way for our customers to support solar in Florida and in their local communities. Our customers contribute voluntarily $9 a month to support solar in Florida and in their communities, and we partner with various hosts throughout our territory to build exciting solar projects throughout their communities and areas where people congregate. So in Palm Coast, not only did FPL sort of recognize the greenness of the city, but we have over 250 participants in the program that also are excited about solar and excited about clean renewable energy. So it is, by coincidence that we are here today because we have a number of participants that are voluntarily contributing to your program, or to the program in the city of Palm Coast. So as far as, there's a number of different benefits to the program. Certainly the program is funded mostly by the program participants, and so there's no cost to the city. The actual structures and the projects that we are looking to propose here in the city of Palm Coast recognize the participants, and they're able to identify with those structures as part of the FPL Solar Now program. One of our key goals is to promote solar and educate and inspire folks about the benefits of solar and clean renewable energy. And one thing, and I heard this mentioned earlier, was certainly very key to our program was something that we could put into a community that was very aesthetically pleasing. And we have these structures that, I'd like to maybe call architectural solar because of the innovative designs and the way that they look. You can see in the picture, and even the pictures previously and the ones that we're going to see in a moment here, that the actual structures are very clean lines. They're not industrial in nature at all. The actual solar panels are visible under the structures. They're actually a glass-on-glass panel, a frameless panel that allows you to actually see the solar cells. And the unique railing system with all of these structures allow us to hide the wires and that sort of thing. And I guess it is somewhat timely to say that all of our structures are actually built to withstand the hurricane standards that are down in the Miami-Dade area. So no need to actually take these structures down or anything like that. And lastly, it definitely aligns well with the other sustainability projects that the city has going on as well, like the EV chargers just out front in the parking lot here. So as far as some of the other projects that we've done, so you can see some examples of these structures in actual places, as we have on the top left the Brevard Zoo, the top right we have the Boynton Beach Oceanfront Park. On the bottom left, it's a little bit more of our older canopy design, but we have the Palm Beach Zoo, and then on the bottom right we have the Frost Science Museum in Miami. So with the city of Palm Coast, and we'd like to get your feedback on these locations, we work with staff to look at 3 different areas which would be ideal for solar, definitely an area where we have a wide demographic of folks and where people congregate as a community. And the program's been, very successful, and we have reached some of our goals as far as the number of projects and things that we can do this year. And we hope to do, all of these projects, but as we evaluate this, we may have to scale some of that back. So we would like to get your feedback on, what are your thoughts with the different locations and the type of structures that we're proposing, and which ones are, more or less the preferences there. So I'll dive right into, the first location right here in this area is the City Hall location. Right here off to the side of the building where they have the green markets and even the food truck events and things, we have a solar canopy that is proposed there that would provide shading to both the disabled parking and also some regular spots there. So that'd be a nice addition. And just adjacent to this, there's actually some additional parking to some of the low-emitting vehicles that has been designated as well. In addition to this, just adjacent to this, we have the walking trail at Central Park. And this is sort of a unique structure. I think we're all maybe used to seeing some canopies in some form, maybe not quite like the ones that we're proposing, but we also have these solar tree structures, which are kind of unique, where people are actually able to walk up to the solar tree and engage with the solar tree, and it allows them to really understand or learn and get up close to solar. So we proposed putting quite a few of these around the actual walking trail there, so that as people are walking or jogging or whatever they may be doing, they have the ability to stop, get some shade under the solar tree, and it also has some USB chargers that are there so that they can actually plug in and charge their mobile devices if they'd like to stop and stand under the shade there. So, it has quite a few uses, but kind of a unique structure that allows to provide about 100 square feet of shading under that structure. And here's a rendering of, what that might look like along that walking trail there. And we've purposely positioned them primarily around the benches. What's not shown in the rendering is that we would actually encapsulate the base of that with the same paver design as what is existing there today. So it'd be completely accessible to anyone. The other location, which is getting underway, is the community center. And we proposed 2 of the canopy designs there right in the parking lot, as you can see, kind of hashed out in that area. These would be a little bit of a lower canopy design, so we don't block the actual facade of the community center that is being erected as we speak, and nearly complete actually last time I was there. So, significant progress that is. And, these canopy designs are slightly larger than the one that's over here at City Hall. You can see that it's a T structure, and it would span both sides of the parking that's there in that's designated for that particular area. The next location is Holland Park, and you can see in the rendering that we're looking at the side nearest the baseball fields and the tennis courts that are there. And this was sort of still in the last stages of construction, so you can see some of that activity there, but it is a pretty neat layout there, and you can even see sort of the unique shadow that the panels cast when the sun is glaring down on it. So another neat area, certainly a benefit. Anybody playing tennis or baseball coming back after a hot match there, they come back and their car is actually under the shading there, so it provides certainly a benefit that's there. As far as signage, because there is some signage there and there's a purpose behind that signage, we have the FPL Solar Now graphic. Our logo is actually on the bottom right of this page. We actually are using the FPL Solar Now program so that we can recognize the participants contributing to the program and that the participants that are there can identify with the actual project that's there as something that they're participating in. The back just highlights that it is a solar tree. And the top cap actually just has the little swoosh lightning bolt that we use. There's also a text backplate, which directs folks to a custom microsite built for the City of Palm Bay, and our team would work with the City of Palm Bay and staff to develop a page where they would be...
What?
Coast. He said coast. I'm so sorry. I live in Palm Beach Gardens, and then I travel up, and I stopped in Palm Bay today for lunch. So I'm sorry. I'm probably still thinking about lunch. So apologize for that. And then lastly, there's a ground mount sign there that on one side talks a little bit about solar and the program, and on the back side there's an insert there that allows the City of Palm Coast to put in whatever they want and change that out at any frequency. And if nothing, there's a default layout there, insert there, that allows them to learn about solar. It talks about Solar 101. The canopies have similar signage with the FPL Solar Now logo, and then I also included a screenshot of the actual microsite that's there. And this is sort of it's hard to get the entire thing because there's scrolling involved, but it also shows like the generation that's being produced from the actual structure, whether it's a solar tree or the solar canopy, so you get some real-time understanding of, it's a cloudy day, it may not be generating as much. Whether it's a nice sunny day, you'll see the full generation there. So something that's tailored so that, people can really get educated about solar and really learn also about, maybe even some of the other green initiatives that are going on in the City of Palm Coast. So with that, I'll turn it over to any questions and feedback.
Remember, any questions or discussions?
One question. Oh, good.
Well, no, you go ahead, Steve.
I just was wondering, the trees in the park will have outlets for, charging your phones and stuff. What are the canopies going to be powering?
The power goes back to the grid, essentially, so...
So we're going to get paid for that? I thought that would...
No. Really?
I'm only kidding.
Okay.
I think, and I've heard that comment too. Well, FPL. First of all, these are, if you've ever seen a solar field, the hundreds of acres, it just goes on. That's what it takes to make some real power. The key to this is that we have no skin in the game, no cost to us whatsoever. A little bit of power is going to help pay for the cost of installation and maintenance. It's all, it's all on FP&L. So, this is not a moneymaker for them. This is trying to promote solar energy, and I think that's very consistent with what we're trying to do. It's like, once again, the electric car plug-in. Is that really saving a lot of money for costing a lot of money? No, it's trying to promote an image, a program, and I think this is very consistent with that.
Free shades.
Yeah.
We could have used that not too long ago when we were thinking of our parks.
Yeah.
Councilmember Clufus, then Councilmember Koth.
Ms. Shipley nailed it. The shade around the lake here will be greatly appreciated. But I had a question regarding how strong they are. The ones at Holland Park, could I hit a tennis ball into it and would it break? I'm just curious as to the sustainability inside of the park.
Yeah, they're Class 2 hail rated up to 72 miles per hour.
Okay.
And so we actually discussed that with fly balls and things like that, and sort of like it's more of a little league field that's there. If it was, a major league field or something like, we wouldn't probably put that type of structure there from a safety perspective. But it's meant to act like hurricane glass. So, but again, it's Class 2 hail rated.
Gotcha, understood.
So another benefit I just realized is that if you park there and some kid hits a foul ball while they're playing, it doesn't hit my windshield, it hits their solar panel. I mean, that's.
Yes, yep.
How tall are the solar trees for over here in the park?
The ones listed, or the ones there are about 18 feet tall.
Could you flip back to the graphic that shows the proposed locations? We have two serious problems with two of the locations here on Curve 2 and Curve 3.
Okay.
Curve 3 is the traditional holiday home of the giant LED firefighter donated by some, I can't remember the name of the family.
Well, maybe this could power it.
Well, I don't know if it will. And Curve 2 is the teddy bear snowball fight display. I think this is a great idea, but if they're 18 feet tall, I don't know how much work the staff is able to do with FP&L to, I realize that's a 1 month a year conflict of interest, but I'd be drummed out of the Rotary Club that puts that display on every year if I didn't mention that.
This did go through the park team, and Denise, I believe Bill Butler, who is the ringleader of our display fantasy lights.
If Bill's okay with this, I've got no problem, but he'd never speak to me again if we had.
As you know, those displays can be moved slightly one way or the other to accommodate them.
Well, I'm not so much concerned about the teddy bear snowball fight, but I don't want to have to deal with the firefighter thing.
I think that actually, I would enjoy that.
And then the other question, a little more, that's a concern, but it's not a huge concern. My other question was on the community center, as far as staff review of those panels, locations. Again, I think the biggest problem is going to be the sheriff's department breaking up the shade parking rage among people trying to get a space under them. But in terms of the aesthetics, I am a little concerned. We're spending $8 million plus to make that place look special. And if we're going to park these in the parking lot directly in front of it, it's, I don't know who on staff is reviewing that with FPL.
Denise, can you maybe address that, please?
Absolutely. With the coordination with FPL, close coordination, we've worked with Park and Recreation Director Alex Boyer, and also Carl Cody, Susan Knopf, who's overseeing the construction of the community center. And we knew that was a concern, and we believe this location doesn't cause a conflict, but we'll definitely revisit it.
Once again, they lowered the profile to make sure that you can see the building.
The artist rendering they showed of it, I know doesn't tell you anything, but I'd hate to get the community center back online and then, be looking at essentially horizontal billboards, blocking the front, from Clubhouse Drive or whatever. I think this is a great idea, but.
Good comments. We'll take
But
those
I think we need to be, City Hall, who cares? you know, you just put them
So, Nick, did you get this promo in there for ACI on this picture?
Right, I hear you, almost. I think I see my car, actually. It's right there, yeah.
Yeah, and just for the record, there's no shade structures in the nearby. That's okay. Those are my only concerns.
So those will be duly noted. Fantasy of Lights will not be, will be organized correctly?
We can work around that.
Nice solar Christmas tree this year.
I didn't want to mention one of the others is right in the middle of the island where the Christmas tree usually goes, but we can hang a few lights from that and plug them into the USB port, you know.
Okay, I will open it up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number 17, please do so at this time.
With all due respect to Denise, I'd like to paraphrase a poem by Joyce Kilmer. I think that I shall never see a solar panel as lovely as a tree. The solar canopies remind me of bus stops, and for parking, I guess that's okay. But those solar trees are about the ugliest thing I have ever seen, and I would urge you, I would plead with you, please keep them out of Central Park, where our first focus is on the environment. I wish, all due respect to FP&L, that Florida were a little more solar-friendly state. For a state that has so much solar power, so much solar energy available, our legislature has done very little to encourage solar usage among our residents. The bus stop things, okay. The trees, please.
Next comment.
Jack Carroll, Palm Coast. I just want to ask one question. Are these things vandalizing proof? You know, they're not that high, and the gentleman said there was glass underneath. So you're going to get some of these kids that they just like to do that. So I was just wondering, you know, is there any protection against that?
Thank you. Next speaker.
Robert McDonald, Palm Coast. I'd like to know how much these solar panels and solar trees are going to cost us, and also what financially are we going to get back from these solar panels and solar trees? What is the city going to recover from it compared to the cost?
Next speaker. We'll close public comment. The vandalized proof, I don't know if you can address that or not.
Oh, yes, the height is, you know, substantially taller than any person.
So the panel is 18 feet up?
Yes, that's right, yeah. Yeah, and actually, well, let me rephrase that. So the top tip of the panel is about 18 feet up. I think the low side of that panel is around 14 or 15 feet up. Yeah, correct.
Okay, so it's the lowest point, Jack, is 14 feet high.
Yeah, and as far as, you know, I mean, again, they're hurricane rated, so they are very strong structures. They're steel structures, 80% recycled steel structures. And as far, you know, if something does perhaps occur, we do have insurance on them. It's in the agreement, actually.
The cost
is nothing.
Is zero to the city, so taxpayers is zero. What little energy would go back to the grid, and it would be FP&L.
It's a 0-0.
Yep.
Yeah. Now the canopies, there's actually a lease payment too.
That's right. We are making. That yes. Wasn't. I was surprised. So describe that. The canopies we're getting.
Yeah, there's $18 a kilowatt. So for instance, if there was a 100 kilowatt canopy there, you'd get $1,800 a year.
Okay, so we get about $1,800 a year.
Okay, and I appreciate Mayor Nett's comments as well. So I will take it back to this council. Any further discussion?
I tend to agree with Mr. Netz, but I think the downtown area, we're moving to that type of look. You know, that higher tech-y, you know, so this, I think, fits in with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing you have outside museums, kind of thing. So.
Okay, entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Moved,
Second.
seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Did you want to add anything? I know you wanted
Yes,
to
if
bring up something.
Good.
It's getting late, so.
Yes, give Larry opportunity to talk about his new facility here in Palm Coast.
And I just want to mention FPL and the city of Palm Coast have enjoyed a long collaborative, cooperative relationship. It was one of the first locations that we actually piloted our LED lighting, and most of it was done in South Florida, but we were able to work here to get a pilot here, and also it's probably the third project in our system, the first outside of Miami-Dade County, where we're actually doing an entire retrofit of lighting. So we really enjoyed working collaboratively with the city of Palm Coast. And in addition, it's going to be our first Hurricane Cat 5, hopefully not having to be tested, service center that we've just finished constructed. We have our engineers and staff moving in, and we're going to have a ribbon cutting and open house in the October timeframe, and you'll all be invited to tour the facility. And in fact, we were able from staff to get a picture of City Hall, and it's in our main meeting room there. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate that. It was a TIFF file. We went ahead and printed it out, but it looks beautiful. Thank you.
Is it okay to talk about the LED lights? You okay with? Okay, good. Enough
Let's
said.
wait till after we're done.
You could come back.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, agenda item number 18, a resolution relating to the Old Kings Road Special Assessment Roll to be transmitted to the Flagler County Tax Collector.
Mayor, this is a standard process every year. This only impacts the people within that district, which is the property owners along Old Kings Road. They've agreed to tax themselves more money to pay for that street that we all ride on. So you have to pass this in order to make sure they get taxed accordingly.
Okay, any questions or comments? Or open up to public comment. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number 18, please do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. I'll take it back to this council.
Approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 19, resolution, final nuisance abatement assessment.
Mayor, City Council, this is also a standard annual process for all those people who do not take care of their property, and then we have to hire a contractor to do so to meet city code. We place a lien on the property, and this accomplishes that. It's a tax lien, so it actually is the same as their property taxes, so the rest of the public does not have to pay for maintaining those private properties. This item will be on a special agenda during your next workshop to meet all our notification. So today, we're not asking you to take action on it, but we published it in the newspaper as a comment period, and then we'll have one more comment period and final action at a special meeting next week to meet all the state laws as far as notification.
Okay, so we can move forward with questions.
After, yeah, if you open up public and go.
Any questions or comments? Any member from the public wish to make comments on agenda item number 19, please do so at this time.
I did not. No, all good.
Checking to see if I'm on it.
Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Take it back to this, so you don't need any action.
That's all we need right now.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number, our consent agenda, 20, 21, 22, or 23. Any member of the public wish to make comment on agenda item number 20, 21, 22, or 23, please do so at this time. Close public comment. I'll take it back to the council. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passed unanimously. Agenda item number D, public participation. Any member of the public wish to make comments? Please do so at this time. State your name for the record, and your 3 minutes will begin.
I don't know whether my hearing aid's working, but did I miss something? Weren't you supposed to take up the county agreement for the land that they want to annex?
It's on the consent agenda, and we just approved it.
We
just approved it.
Well, then I'm a little late. except I just want to let you know, that land that they bought was originally zoned industrial or commercial, I believe. So they took it out of the city's, took it off the city's tax rolls. Then they decided that the purpose of doing that was to keep the airport safe. And in this agreement that you came up with, everything that you say in here in the preamble is almost exactly opposite to why you would want to de-annex the land. You're saying we're concerned about the enclaves. All the state legislation, any good city is concerned about enclaves. So in effect, they're trying to increase the enclave in Palm Coast. So not only do they take the tax base away from us, they increase the enclave. But I guess you want to do that anyway, but it just doesn't make sense, because if they bought the land, they didn't have to annex the property to make sure that it wasn't going to be used. They owned it, so they wouldn't be using it. So now they're talking about if in the future we want to build, your concern is, well, if you want to build, let's bring it back to the city. Well, I guess that's fine. The only thing is, in reading this, you're saying our zoning will apply, our building codes and everything will apply, but that's everything above the ground, but nothing at ground level. You're talking about our swales and our flood concerns and whatnot. So we're always concerned about how the land, when it's developed, it's not just the building.
Thank you for your comments.
How everything is being taken care of.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I hope you get the message.
Next speaker.
You didn't gain anything.
Charles E. Broncos, and I won't talk about LASPO today. City Manager, you mentioned in one of your workshops about your plan for emergency preparedness. And the Elder Source and the senior citizen thing that you guys had meetings about, I don't know what all came about it. Now, the one item I have is the maintenance on South Old King, the shoulder and grass cutting. We'd sure like to get it cut a little more often than it does get cut. And utilities, there's a pump station or piping that comes out of the creek by Graham Trail Park, north of Graham Trail Park and south of utilities. It looks like a big old eyesore. There's weeds growing through it. There's an electric pump in there and so forth. I don't know what it's all about, but somebody needs to look at it. I want to thank the road people on Town Center Road and Old King, where the new signal light is, that they added about 2 feet of asphalt instead of having dirt there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Robert McDonald, Palm Coast. My comments tonight are going to be directed to Vice Mayor Nobile because he's the council person in the R section. The R section is starting to look like the hood. We have overgrown grass, we have garbage cans, we have a house on Rickenbacker that had garbage thrown from one end of the property to the other. I called code enforcement. They said, okay, we'll get to it. Okay. I requested to find out how many miles of roads are in the R section. It took me 18 days to get an answer back. 18 days. We have 67 miles of roads in the R section. So if code enforcement in the R section works 5 days a week, that's only 12.5 miles a day that he has to drive through, which means that in an 8-hour day, he only has to drive 1.5 miles in an hour. When I called code enforcement, I talked to a supervisor who happens to live in the R section. He said, oh, I know all about it. I pass it every day. I said, wait a minute, you pass it every day? He says, yeah, but you have to understand something. The R section is divided into 3 sections for code enforcement. There's an RA section, there's an RI section, and there's an RO section. And you can't expect him to drive the whole R section in one day. It's 67 miles. He can do that in an hour and a half. It's ridiculous. And it's getting worse. People are putting out their garbage at 3 o'clock on the day before. Garbage cans are still scattered all over. Grass is all over. We have more commercial vehicles in the R section than you can shake a stick at. At 34 Rickenbacker, we have on weekends, we have a 53-foot tractor trailer that parks in the swell the whole weekend. Code enforcement says, oh yeah, I know all about that. Oh, we've been finding them. Something has to be done. Now, Mr. Nobile, you're the constituent in the R section. It's really starting to look raggy. So I would appreciate if maybe we could set up a meeting with you, the council, code enforcement, and myself, and we can sit down and let's start with one section at a time. And since you and I both live in the R section, we're going to want to pride ourselves in our section. So I'm respectfully requesting that you respond to my request because unfortunately the mayor doesn't live in the R section, you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening again, George Mayo. 3 things. Last week, my wife and I were driving past the Imagine School. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And there were parents going both north and southbound, stopped on the road, turning and stopped in the middle of the road so that they could pick up their children. If you look at the building on the right side, you have a driveway that has both an entrance and an exit. But it looks like what they do is force the parents to drive in, drive all the way around the building and exit from the left side. As they do in emergencies at that time, can't the school have both the entrance and exit, have the parents enter both ways? Because what had happened is traffic was stopped dead, okay? It's aggravating for me and the other cars behind me, and it's unsafe for emergency vehicles. If they come up there, everybody doesn't want to move because they're in line for their kids. It's a charter school. I don't think the education department has anything to do with it. So I'm wondering if either the city or the city can contact the sheriff's department and see if get something done about that. Number 2, since I come to most of these meetings, I couldn't attend the last one, so I watched it on UVerse. It's on channel whatever it is, 199 or whatever. Half the time, the audio was off and you could see the visual. Half the time, the visual was pixelate and you could hear somebody talk and you couldn't see what was going on. And the other half of the time, you couldn't see or hear anything. My wife tells me this has been ongoing. I don't know if it's a problem with our IT department or if it's with UVerse. So I don't know if somebody can get together and see how that problem can be solved. Because I basically got almost nothing out of that meeting because you couldn't really tell what was going on. And you didn't know what was approved, you hear, and et cetera. And the third thing is, I noticed that County Commissioner O'Brien is here. He has come here quite a few times, and I appreciate that. I will ask, I know all you council members have busy schedules. Hopefully, you can at some point attend the County Commissioner meeting. I think it helps because there are issues that go on that the county talks about that basically deal with Palm Coast because we are the largest population area in Flagler County. And I'm sure there are things here that he could take back to his commissioner. So I just ask that, if at all possible, when you have time, in your busy schedule, can also fit time in to go to a county commission meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. And I'll close public comments. I know Bill Venny had left before making comments about what we just approved, but
Right, it's pretty basic, is that, yes, the property there in the Seminole Woods area is in the city, was purchased by the Flagler County to be part of their airport. They've actually included it as their airport. The rest of the airport is outside the city. So they requested this just be consistent with the rest of the airport. Our concern was if they developed, went vertical, that it meets city standards, because our standards are different than the county standards. They agreed to that, and that's what this interlocal agreement does. It says that we don't plan on developing, and if we don't, it's a whole lot of nothing. I mean, there's no taxes involved at this point, et cetera, and there, it just stays like it is. It doesn't matter if it's in the city or not. If it does, if the county develops it, they'll develop it under our code, and it's vertical, not just the horizontal, because the horizontal might be, or minor things, but they build buildings. And then if they sell it back to a developer and it goes back private, it's understood it would come back inside the city and it would be in the city limits. So I think we're protected. Chances are the county's saying they're not going to do anything. I think that's true today. 50 years from now, who knows? And this is a way of trying to say that, okay, if something different happens, that the city has some say in that area and protects that neighborhood. So it's really a whole lot to do about nothing, in my opinion. But it's just kind of a good, relationship item to make sure we don't have conflicts in the future.
thank you. And Mr. Ebert's comments about the maintenance, Graham Trail.
People in the back heard those, and we'll take note of those.
Okay. We got it? Okay. And as far as Mr. McDonald's comments about the R section, would you like to answer any of his comments as far as code enforcement and with the whole?
Yeah, it's so ironic, because, we get beat up all the time. Code enforcement is too strict. We're not strict enough. R section, W section, the C section, we're out there every day. And a lot of the things that Mr. McDonald describes, I can almost guarantee you they've been written up and given notices, et cetera, because we are out there every day. If he has any specifics, he's more than welcome, as he knows, to get together with code enforcement and give those specifics. I'll be happy to address them.
I'll just add, if you want to get together with myself and Ms. Grossman, I have no problem with that. We can sit down and hash it out.
All right, let's not go back and forth. Okay, thank you. I would just also suggest that if there's not a neighborhood watch group out there, it really is a very effective resource. I've spoken at several of them throughout the city, and I know our commander's sitting in the back, but Sergeant Lutz, who manages those, he does the crime stats for neighborhood watch groups. And the neighborhood watch groups that do exist in our community have very little to no crime, very little break-ins. It's more of an awareness tool. It's about getting the community together and the neighbors together, cleaning up after yourselves, having monthly meetings, talking about being good neighbors and why that means a lot to our community, especially with property values. So if there's not one out there, I would also maybe suggest that contact Sergeant Lutz to maybe tell him how to do that. Because that's...
When we figure out what areas,
yeah,
we'll
that's
do
great.
that.
I know we have a couple of small ones in the R section, so, there's potential to expand that.
Well, we got one in our neighborhood.
Yep.
Right.
I'm in charge of the weapons.
So to George's three comments, the Imagine School,
That is a very serious issue. We deal with that every year at the beginning of the school year. Our policy is kind of give them a 1-week break, because the first week is always crazy with new parents and everything. If they are stopped on Town Center Boulevard, the through lane, the sheriff's office will assist us, but The superintendent's office has always been very helpful. It is a charter school private, but it's also has, the school district has some control, and we will work it out so you don't have parents stopped in the road waiting for school to get out.
It is a problem. I'm telling you, I'm over there all the time. It's a problem.
And if you see that, then we need to stop that, period. Because what people trying to get by them, they're going the wrong way, and we're going to have a head-on collision. It's very, very serious.
What happens? People go.
Yep. So we will get on that again this year. We do every school year, and they have to make adjustments on campus.
And as far as the audio visual of our city council meetings,
First I've heard of that. Once again, we got people listening to that. If that's a problem, then we need to try to figure out what's going on there.
so maybe Tom or somebody will make sure.
Yeah, they're listening, and Steve's here, and I've got a note. I'll follow up tomorrow to make sure that we don't have any more of those problems than we can avoid.
And your comments are duly noted. It's always great to have a city-county relationship, and I certainly appreciate Commissioner O'Brien's continual participation in our city business, and I think he does an exceptional job making sure that he brings those items back to the commission. So likewise, it should be reciprocated. So thank you for your comments. Okay, we'll now take it to discussion by city council of members or matters not on the agenda.
Really? I have nothing this evening.
I have one thing, Madam Mayor. I apologize. I know it's late, and hopefully this won't take more than 5 minutes. But first, what I'd like to do is make a statement and then a motion. But it's been brought to my attention from the policies, I need council consent during the comments to make a motion.
What are you asking to make a comment and then make a motion?
Correct.
Okay,
But yes,
sorry.
but what I'm at, yes, the comment I can make.
Okay.
It's the motion part that requires the consent of the, is that true? Is that correct? Is that
Your council rules and procedures under your regular meeting, we're here tonight, talks on page 4 of 11, city council comments. The purpose of city council comments, what we're doing right now, is to promote the public discussion of city business to encourage the dissemination of information. This is the important part. City council shall take no major policy action without an agenda item unless such is approved by the consent of the city council, but may take action to address exigent matters or to ensure that matters are addressed in a timely manner. Exigent matters meaning something that we need to do, got to do it tonight, or it's straightforward. But what this says, as I read it, is that we're not going to take action on something under city council comments unless that is approved by the consent of the city council. And I think it's just so that, I mean, that this existed before I got here, but.
And I just don't want to I don't want to create an issue, you know, if somebody, so what I need is for the council, a majority of the council to say yay or nay, and then I won't do it if it's nay, and I'll, you know, I just want to make a motion and, me neither, no problems. So we have a consent. I'm looking at you.
Well, my suggestion is that I don't know how the council can consent unless we know what the motion is going to be, because it's whether it's a major policy issue or not. It says
it's a major policy issue. It's not a major policy issue, but does it say major policy issue?
It says the council shall take no major policy action without an agenda item.
Well, this is not policy.
Okay. Well, I'm just reading the council rules. It's, my suggestion would be for the council to give their consent. They would need to determine whether or not this is a major policy action.
So can you read your statement?
Yeah, I'll do it that way. But I'm trying to understand, how would somebody make a motion? So if I wanted to put something to make a motion, it's got to get on the agenda. And that agenda is created by the city manager. So, I mean, do I get any nickel in this
This
place?
is city council comments. So as you indicated, you were going to make a comment, and then you would say, I would like to, based upon those comments, my suggestion is, based upon those comments, I would like to make a motion with city council's consent.
I'll do
I think that every council member has the ability to put something on the agenda.
Well, I mean, has anybody, well, I'm not going to go into it.
Particularly if you have consent, you want to put it on next, we do that all the time.
All right, well, I'll do it. I'll just read my statement, and then I'll ask you, here's what I want a motion. Is it okay? Yes or no? And then we'll take it from there. All right, so basically, the reason I'm making this motion or trying to present this motion now is because I needed to collect some information. So last week, or whatever it was, so 2 weeks ago, I was at the Florida League of Cities Conference, and I had the opportunity to discuss with several city managers, several city mayors, and several organizations who are involved in city manager searches. And the consent, the overwhelming consent, was that you want to allot 6 months, but it shouldn't take more than 3 to 6 months, in their opinion, not in their opinion, in their experience, for most cities to get a new city manager. Also, I spoke with the prior assistant city manager of Palm Coast under Dick Kelton, and I'm afraid to say her name because I get it wrong all the time. O-L. O-L, okay. I call her Oli, but all right, O-L. And she concurred with that, and she now works with an organization that provides search services for smaller cities who don't have funds and so on and so forth. So the other issue I have is that if we continue on our current course of city manager replacement, we're going to end up with a search and a potential potential hiring during an election season. And this may even go beyond the election season into the election, where then we're going to have potentially two brand new city councils members whose first action is going to be to select a city manager. I also found that there's really going to be not much. There's going to be a significant there's going to be a significant payout to the city manager, to the current city manager, if he retires. And that's going to be in the lieu of his vacation time that's owed to him, a small severance, that kind of stuff. So the reason for not getting this moving quickly and done because we want to, save some money really isn't in a factor here. And the fact that I'm just not comfortable with what I'll call a 2-year short timer, on staff at such an elevated position. I just don't like the way this is happening. I don't like that we're just kind of putting it off and so on and so forth. So I would feel, I would feel I'm not doing my job if I didn't make the motion to get this ball rolling now. Bite the bullet, have it done, and get ourselves functioning up quickly before we get into an election season and before we get into a potential election. So what I'm going to ask for consent is to make a motion that we terminate the city manager's contract in 30 days from today. So now that's not a motion, but that's asking you if I can make that motion. Is that adequate, Mr. Attorney?
If the city council is willing to consent to that.
That's what I'm saying is, so we're now okay to make that consent or not?
Are we clarifying whether it is a
He can even make a motion.
Yeah, I consent to him making a motion.
I think it's major policy.
Is it major policy? I feel like that's major.
It's major policy, and that's why it needs the consent of.
That's why we need to, you just need to clarify, going back to it, if it's a policy decision, it needs to be agendaed. Is that what you're?
No, I'm saying that the city council shall take no major policy action. I think we all agree, hiring or not, or getting rid, it's a major policy action, without an agenda item. So we're not having an agenda. This is clearly not an agenda item. And then this is the key sentence, unless such is approved by the consent of the city council. So what's saying is that normally this is just discussion. This is just a city council comments. We're not going to do any business under this agenda item unless everyone consents to doing business under this agenda item. And that's what the vice mayor is asking. He's asking for your consent to do some business on a part of your agenda, which you normally don't do. Not only do you not normally do it under this, but since it's major policy action, it's normally agended. And the reason it's normally agended, if I may take some liberty, is that if it's agended, people know that it's coming up. Since it's not agended, then this is something that's coming up without this coming to someone that was looking at our city council agenda for tonight. They wouldn't know that this motion is being considered.
I don't want to make Jim upset before we get hit by a Category 5 hurricane.
I said, well, first of all, it's 30 days.
Yeah.
And that's going to be gone. And I'm going to make this statement again. If we can't function without Mr. Landon because of these guys, then they need to be fired. Because they're not, I'm trying to understand. First it was money, now it's a hurricane, where we don't want to fire him because of a hurricane. Make it 60 days. So
I'm not my motion.
I'm not making the motion. I'm asking for permission to make the motion. Or not permission, but I'm asking for consent to make the motion. You can vote however you want. I mean, you know, if you consent to allow me to make the motion. If not, I'm just going to ask for it to be on the next agenda.
Can I make a statement also?
I mean, I think this needs to be clarified first, and we need to move forward, and under your comments, you'd be more than welcome to make a statement, if that's what you're wanting to do. But, you know, I would like this to be agended. I just think out of the right thing to do, to allow the public, if they want to speak on this item, that they have the right and ability to do so. So, and I have no problem with you requesting anything to put on the agenda. I think it's appropriate for you to do that. I think it's appropriate for all of us to do that. And it is my understanding that we do have the ability to do that. So if we don't, then we need to change that. But that's what my wish is.
So you want to put it on an agenda item?
Well, first, just let's discuss whether you allow me to make the motion, if you consent or not. Then
I consent that you can make the motion. I think we've already had a meeting with the public.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of doing this right now.
No, I'd put it on an agenda.
All right.
I mean, I have no trouble discussing.
I have no problem, yeah.
We had a 3-hour workshop where we all aired our opinions on this, and the result was what the result was. And I take what you're saying,
That's the
Steve.
misinformation, too.
Yeah.
We were told that, and I know what phone calls I got, I don't know what phone calls everyone else got, but saying that it's going to take 18 months to find a new city manager, which is not true. That a new city manager wouldn't come and take a job here because we fired him. I mean, every job I've ever had, I never say what happened to the person before me. I'm just glad the job is there. And I think people are looking for jobs out there.
I think we should be discussing, I mean, again, we said no consent. This will be agended. We can talk about it then.
Okay, but now I'm requesting this be on the next business meeting agenda. Okay, are we clear? Is that?
I think, quite
Okay,
frankly,
I'm good with that.
we have the ability to do that anytime.
That's fine, sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
my understanding, so.
Yeah. I just felt like Ms. Shipley said, is we had the discussion. I just wanted to get it and say doom, but so we'll put it off 2 weeks.
Is that all?
That's all I got, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, hey, Spike, want to go? You want to follow that up? Sure. I was just going to say, I was going the opposite direction. I was going to say that coming back from New York for a week, driving down Belterre was amazing after coming from the roads up north with the medians. It's incredible to live in a place that we have that. And we're very reliant upon our swale systems right now, so hopefully everybody who's out there maintaining the swale systems understands their importance and that we appreciate them as well, because that storm drain system is probably going to be put to the test here within a week. So let's hope that all holds up, fingers crossed, and hopefully we can rely on the chief to lead us through hard times. Hey, give me a thumbs up. We're good. All right. That's all.
I agree about the roads, by the way.
Oh, geez, up there.
North. Go ahead. Okay. And I have nothing. Mr. Reichman, counsel, city attorney,
Nothing, no report this evening.
you had enough of ordinances?
I was just looking at your council rules, and just so there's no confusion, let's be very clear, there is a provision for the process for placing items on an agenda, and the process that you used tonight, or what you did tonight, is consistent with that for placing on the agenda. So I just trying to alleviate anything that might come up about that. So
What is that?
this is the council rules and procedures section.
Yeah, okay, but what is the rule for putting an item on the agenda?
Matters to be placed on the agenda by the city manager or by any member of the city council.
Okay,
The mayor is correct. When a city council member wishes to place a matter on the agenda, the city council member shall raise the matter at a regular city council meeting tonight, or at a workshop, and seek the city council's consent for inclusion of the matter in the next agenda, available regular agenda, which is what happened tonight, or in exigent circumstances or circumstances clearly warranting immediate action on the current agenda, which did not happen, was not applicable. A city council member may not unilaterally add a member to an agenda without the majority of the city council's prior approval. So what I heard tonight is consistent with that. So and I apologize, I don't mean to belabor it, but I just, so that there can't be confusion with someone listening, it's, what we did tonight is consistent with your council rules.
Okay.
Mr. Lynn, the city manager comments.
Yes, first of all, everybody knows there's a hurricane out there, and it is very unpredictable right now as to what impact it will have on Palm Coast, or none at all. Very good chance it could have major impact, so we are preparing for the worst. We've asked the mayor to follow through with state and county action of declaring a state of emergency so that we can do what we do on these situations and make sure that we are prepared. We've already started getting everybody together and preparing for this weekend. The impacts are right now, and it's very early, but it won't be very long either, are expected in the Sunday, Monday timeframe. We have a number of events this weekend, starting Friday night movie in the park to the Intercoastal Waterway cleanup, our annual cleanup, to senior games, to the 9/11 ceremony at Heroes Park on Monday. All of those very likely will need to be rescheduled, and so we just ask people to stay tuned as to how we will reschedule that and what the new schedule would be. A lot of discussion about evacuating. Very, very difficult at this point because we don't know where this hurricane is going. If it's going to go to the west of us, we don't want to evacuate west. If it's going to stay on the east of us, and maybe we do need to go west. Going north is a challenge because we got a lot of people from Texas that's already occupying a lot of facilities just north of us. So once again, we will continue to coordinate with the state, with the county, and stay tuned because there's a lot of updates will be coming your way. As far as my future employment, I guess my only request is that I thought we had a decision. I mean, I need to plan for some things too. If you want to, terminate my contract and move me on, then do it. If you want me to stay until retirement in 2019, then say that. But this, going back and forth in every other meeting, we're going to have a discussion as to what my future is. I think is most unfair. So. I'm all in favor of putting it on the agenda and taking a vote, but to Mr. Nobile to keep bringing it up every other meeting, I think is
but I'm
very.
allowed to, because we haven't voted on it. We had a discussion with a lot of misinformation, not from you, but misinformation, and I got very, very different information provided to me, and I have a right to bring up.
You have a right. You have a right to bring it up every meeting.
I'm not going to bring it up every week. I'm going to bring, but when we vote on it, then it's final, in my mind. And if next week or 2 weeks we vote on it and the council says, no, we're going to stick, or no, we're not going to terminate, because that's all they're going to vote on, then that's the last I'm going to speak of it. But I have to do what my constituents, and we spoke about it, we opened it up, and, it just didn't fly with me. And so I apologize for that, but that's why I'm here.
Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay.
Motion adjourned.
Everybody be safe.